Welcome to the show. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Grow Generation, where the pros go to grow. More on them in a bit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Last Call podcast, where for the last few months, myself and a merry band of cohorts have been discussing the Star Wars movies in their entirety in a chronological order, sort of way from episode 1, The Phantom Menace, all the way through Return of the Jedi as of today. I am, of course, joined by my co-host who's been with me since the beginning, Cam Clark. How's it going, Cam?
Yeah, everything's good. Yeah, very good. Glad to be back, as always.
Yeah, and today we are joined by the gentleman that joined us for Attack of the Clones. There we go, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Brian Brantley. Brian, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so guys, this is it. This is the last of the original trilogy. This is the last of the holy trilogy of cinema. Cam, it's been quite a journey getting here. How are you feeling about this experience and getting through the OT? Are you ready to say goodbye to it?
I mean, no, probably is because I think it's just more fun to talk about the films that are more emotionally resonant to you. Mm-hmm. So, we're here. We're doing this because of that original trilogy. That's why, any of us that have joined us on these, including, I'm sure, Brian, that's the sticker, the original trilogy. That's the hook that got us in there. So, yeah, we'll be sad to see it go and move on to the sequel trilogy. But there's fun to be had in that as well, and talking about these other movies as well. So,
absolutely. Brian, you, like we mentioned before, you joined us for Attack of the Clones. This is your first OT movie with the podcast. How you feeling about what you've done and seen and getting to this point?
It's fun. I mean, I like clones, but I love the OT. That is my heart as far as a Star Wars fan, and there's a lot in this film that I love.
Me and you have had many conversations about Return of the Jedi. Almost anytime we go see a Star Wars movie, me and you end up talking about Return of the Jedi. So when I started doing this, I told Cam and Jammer that I really wanted to get you on this one specifically. So let's talk about a little bit about the last time that we all watched this film before. For those of you that are new to the podcast, by all means, go wherever you get your podcasts from. The LRM Online Podcast Network. Subscribe and check out the back catalog of all the Last Call episodes. We have like this list of, I call them talking points. Not really, I guess they are kind of talking points, but we wanted some like continuity, some consistency on the way we approached each of these podcasts. And one of those questions is the last time we all watched this movie before watching it for this podcast. You had to watch the movie the week of the podcast recording. So, Brian, when was the last time you saw Jedi before this week?
The same with Attack of the Clones, right before Force Awakens, so 4 or 5 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's a long time to go without seeing the OT, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess because we've had so much Star Wars, in recent years, I just haven't sat down and rewatched them.
Makes sense. Cam, when was the last time? You?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, probably. As I've said with all the other ones, though I keep repeating myself all the time, but kind of the longest period of time I've ever really went without watching the old trilogy, because we were doing this, and this has been going many months now. So I probably would have watched them again prior to that timeline if it had not been for that. But who knows? Actually, I think Brian's onto something there when he says there's so much Star Wars out there at the moment. Whereas I think when well, I was going through periods, and probably you yourself, of watching it all the time. We didn't have as much Star Wars, so when you needed your Star Wars fix, you always went back to the old trilogy, but you're almost kind of kept ticking along with other things at the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has definitely been filling a lot of geek and pop culture fans' time for the last decade or so. I, like Empire and A New Hope, watched most recently earlier this year when I got my hands on the specialized versions, and that's the last time. So I've seen it within the last year. As with all of the OT movies, I watched the theatrical release. I've got those DVDs to where I could watch the theatrical release. Brian and Cam, I know you both have Blu-rays of Star Wars. Is that the version you watched?
Yes, for me, yeah. I don't have the old well, I do, but they're on VHS tape, and I no longer have such a device that can play that old-fashioned medium anymore. So yeah, it's absolutely the Blu-rays for me. Yeah.
What about you, Brian?
Same Blu-rays, which halfway through I started to regret a little bit. There's a few changes
because of some of the changes. Yeah.
Some of the changes really stand out, but you know.
Well,
I'm one of these people that kind of doesn't mind some of the changes. So
some of them are okay.
Get to those bits.
We'll talk about them. I mentioned in my notes a couple of places where I know there were changes for the 97 special edition, which I think if I were to have any version of Star Wars trilogy in its entirety in like a 4K upscale, it would be the 97 reissues, because the majority of the changes across the trilogy in 97 I'm okay with. There are a few that kind of suck, but the 2011 changes, oh god.
Yeah, I am with you, really, but the one caveat I would have to that is the Phantom Menace, because of Yoda. Not that I may ever watch the Phantom Menace again, but if they were bringing out a definitive version, I'd need to not have Puppet Yoda, because I don't think I could ever go back to Puppet Yoda again.
It just stands out too much.
In that film, I mean, anyway, he's fine in The Last Jedi, but, in that film it just did not work at all.
Definitely. Okay, well, Cam, let's start with you on your feelings about Return of the Jedi before watching this week.
So, I mean, for me, Jedi's always been my third favourite of the original trilogy, with the caveat that it has some of my favourite Star Wars moments in it out of the entire trilogy. But as an overall, to me, it's the third of the old trilogy in terms of quality. So that's where my headspace was going into this.
Very cool. Brian, what about you? How do you feel about this
almost
movie?
The exact same answer. Me and you've talked. This film has several of my absolute favorite scenes of the entire saga. I would say probably my top 3 or 4 are all in this film. And so it was, like I said, I hadn't seen it in, about 4 or 5 years. So yeah, I was actually very much looking forward to this weekend, checking it out.
Very cool. I did LRM Ranks It November of last year with Jammer, a huge 2-part, almost 3 hours discussing all of the Star Wars movies that had come out up to that point. I don't think, Solo had come out, and that was like
for me the most famous of all your LRM Ranks It.
Yeah, for you because of where Jammer put Episode 8, and I looked at my top 5 earlier, which was 7, 6, Rogue One, 4, 5. And I actually think, after having watched all of those movies, or except for 7, just my top 4, 6, Rogue One, 4, 5, I think I would do. I think I would switch. My
Rogue One and Jedi.
Rogue One and Jedi, and depending on the day, I might even put Jedi up at number 2, but I do, especially after watching it this time. But definitely, I think it would now be 7, Rogue One, 6, 4, 5.
I agree with that, and one of the big reasons I'm glad you're letting me participate in this episode is because I noticed that most people, they will put it when they're doing their top lists. Jedi will fall out of the top 3 in many people's lists.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, for whatever, and I understand some of the thought, but as I said, there's some of the most iconic and important scenes in Star Wars, I think, are in this film, and that alone makes me feel that it should be a top 3 film. Now I understand the structure of the film as a whole. We'll get into that, but to me, when I think Star Wars, this is the film that pops up in my head.
Yeah, it's hugely
I
important.
mean, the good outweighs. There is some bad,
yes,
and I'm sure we'll get there. But the good outweighs the bad in this film, and sometimes you just get that in a movie. So yeah, it'll always be, until something better comes along, which I highly doubt, to be honest. And it will always be in that top 3. There's nothing that has displaced any of the old trilogy for me so far.
I think part of what Rogue One at the time kind of took a top 3 spot for me. This was, like I said, November 2018, so this is coming off of Solo and The Last Jedi, and so my most recent good memory of Star Wars was Rogue One. In December of 2016, because 17's Last Jedi left me mostly divided. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I liked, I'd say, at least 51 to 52% of it. But Rogue One was fresh on my mind. A lot of fan service, and I think that's why it creeped into my top 3. But I definitely think I can see putting Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, back into the top 3, and potentially even number 2. But I don't know. We'll see how I feel at the very end of this discussion. But let's go ahead and get into breaking this movie down. Like all of Star Wars, it begins a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And we get our crawl. This crawl, actually reading it this time, I think this is one of the most boring, worst crawls there is.
I have a question about the crawl.
Go ahead.
It states that the second Death Star is more powerful than the first. In what way and how does it matter? They blow up planets.
Yeah, it can blow up them. It can blow them up quicker. That's what it does. You know, when they're like, when they do that. Ready, preparing to fire. It's starting the 10-minute ignition sequence. Firing, getting ready. It's almost ready. We're gonna fire now. They're able to fire that a little bit quicker, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, I'm headcanoning it here totally. You know what I mean? But to me, it seems to fire slightly quicker. But yeah, it doesn't matter, does it? Really. It's bigger though. If you look at the sort of, what you call it, like technical manuals and everything, the Death Star 2 is a lot bigger than Death Star 1. Did you know that?
Yeah. Which doesn't necessarily mean more powerful, but I guess
it means more powerful. It's Star Wars. That's what the Empire do.
Yeah. And then we'll talk a little bit more about Death Stars and repetition in Star Wars in a little bit, but I don't know. The crawl was just kind of like, yeah, hey, Luke's back, and oh, by the way, there's a second Death Star. They spend 2 paragraphs discussing the Death Star and the plans that have been stolen or whatever. I had a question. If they hadn't mentioned the Death Star in the crawl, how much more surprising, and would it have been better? What you see, the Star Destroyer, which we all get, when the movie first opens, and we're used to seeing Star Destroyers, and then we see the shuttle coming out. Like, how epic would it have been to see the second Death Star as like a surprise?
I think for people like us, movie buffs like us, I totally understand where you're coming from, but the way they market these movies, who they want to see them, especially at the time in 1983, you know, if they were doing that in test audiences, you would have had somebody going, I don't understand why the Death Star came back. You know, they blew that up in that first movie. And then they just got this Death Star there. I mean, did they fish it out the fucking planet or what? You know, I don't know. But I think you would have got that. So I can kind of understand why they do that. Plus, you know, an opening crawl in Star Wars is always set the scene of what's just happened prior to it. So I kind of understand it, but you have a point. You have a point.
Brian, what do you think?
Yeah,
Would it have been cool to have it as a surprise instead?
I mean, I sort of see what you're saying in that you have the crawl and literally a minute later you see the Death Star. So did you necessarily need to say it? But at the same time, maybe they were concerned that audiences will be like, is that a new Death Star? You know, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but you can explain that in the movie.
True, and
know?
they do.
Yeah,
and he even does when when Vader lands. But
yep.
I don't know. I guess it's just sort of catching you up on.
I guess.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Vader landing and his pep talk. In Empire Strikes Back, we get we really get to see how powerful and how fearsome Vader is. He's force choking motherfuckers up close. He's force choking motherfuckers from a distance. He's a badass with a lightsaber. There's a time where he doesn't even bother dueling Luke during their fight. He just starts throwing shit at Luke, kind of taunting him. And we get a great line in here. You know, he's telling him, "Hey, you're behind schedule. This is messed up." And the guy's like, "Well, we'll double our efforts." And I always love that line. "I hope so, Commander, for your sake. The Emperor is not as forgiving as I am."
Yeah.
Until this point,
it sets the scene, doesn't it?
Yeah. Until this movie, the only part of the Emperor we've seen is his head, and it's old monkey head if you're watching the the OG OT, and it really makes you afraid of him. Like, Brian, go ahead and describe your feelings on this scene.
Love it. First of all, how shiny did they get his helmet? Like, that is that is the shiniest helmet of the entire saga. I mean, that moment when he gets off the shuttle. But yeah, I love that scene, and it does such a good job of setting the audience up for this, how scary the Emperor is. The Emperor is someone that even, Vader wouldn't want to cross, necessarily. And just, yeah, it's a great way to set up a villain without having met the villain,
Definitely. Cam?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can add anything to that. I completely agree with what Brian said in terms of his analysis of it. It's perfect. I think outside of the dramatic opening of A New Hope, this is my favourite opening to a Star Wars film. And interestingly enough, I don't know if I'm sure people have noticed this, but people probably don't think about it, but every old trilogy film starts with Vader. You don't necessarily see him straight away, but it's his ship. Or, every single film starts with Vader, so they keep that continuity going. And it's just, it totally sets up for, well, this guy's coming. They've been building up the Emperor a little bit, so you just hear him mentioned in the first film, then we see his face and we get a conversation from him in the second one, and now they're saying he's coming. So they've been building that up in the audience, and the audience becomes excited because, this guy's coming, we get to see him, and that works. It's really well planned out.
It is. It's very good. Yeah, that's definitely something I noticed as well as always starting the movies off with the Empire in the beginning scene, at least. The very first thing you see in any Star Wars movie is the Tantive flying over, but it's being chased immediately by a Star Destroyer. And then in episode in Empire, Star Destroyer, and in Jedi, Star Destroyers, and Vader. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll give the commander, the gentleman playing the commander, props for pretty decent fear acting. He does look legitimately afraid.
Seeing it now actually reminded me of Rogue One. Because what was the guy in charge of the Death Star in Rogue One?
Krennic.
So this, I was immediately connecting the two in that, they always get this sort of scaredy guy to be in charge of building a Death Star. I don't know. It did pop in my head while I was watching it. I was immediately thinking of Rogue One.
I think Krennic's got more ambition, more about him than this guy. This guy seems more just a kind of lackey. Doesn't seem, any comparison to sort of a Krennic or a Tarkin. He's just a sort of random officer. But they don't really give him much to do either.
Yeah. Well, let's get off of the Death Star 2. They find out, hey, yeah, the Emperor's coming here. Emperor's not as forgiving as Vader is. And we get to Tatooine. We learn in the crawl that Luke has already returned there, but the first thing we see there is R2-D2 and C-3PO. Cam, I mentioned this in Empire. Brian, I want to know, how much are you missing 3PO and R2, especially their interactions in the sequel trilogy?
Oh, yeah, a lot. It's the comedy is perfect. It just, the way they, it play, it's just one of them doesn't even say anything, but the way they play off of each other is great. I will say, I still will never forgive Lucas for having Anakin build 3PO.
Yeah.
That kills me every time I think about it. It is, I would go as far as to say it is the worst, for me, the worst thing that the prequels did. Because to me, it just doesn't make sense. But beside, moving on, yeah, I love 3PO. I love R2. And I love that they have so much screen time. That's a solid 4 minutes, maybe 5.
Yeah. From
their arrival to, yeah.
They show up together. They have a lot of great interactions. Going up to Jabba's palace, 3PO, I think it's hilarious. He knocks on the door. Oh, nobody's here. Let's just leave.
He just taps it.
Yeah, I think that's hilarious. And we, of course, we get in there. Bib Fortuna, the Twi'lek, the male Twi'lek. When they were doing the Huttese speak between Greedo and Han Solo, and even the Huttese that Jabba speaks in the special edition, there's a lot of really good made up words in there. But in Return of the Jedi, we get Bib Fortuna literally saying, "They Jabba no bada," for don't bother Jabba. Jabba can't be bothered. And then later on, he says he's no Jedi, like just in pure fucking English. Like
it's as if he's basically saying, "Don't make a bargain with him. He's no Jedi." It sounds like that, doesn't it?
And it's just like they worked really hard to create a language for earlier films, but then just kind of got lazy for the foreign alien language in Return of the Jedi. I love 3PO.
But then when they made that, sorry to butt in, but when they made that was the first time we had really seen the kind of Huttese language outside of Greedo, though that was the only other time, wasn't it, Greedo? So, they were kind of, I suppose, going right back to the well again, and then what they've come out with later sounds more Greedo, if that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. So they kind of went back to the kind of original with that one, so, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so, we get to meet Jabba the Hutt, and for many, many years, this was the first time anybody had ever seen Jabba the Hutt, because his scene was actually cut out of the original version of A New Hope until the 97 re-releases, which we've discussed before. But Jabba, huge, giant slug dude. We get the droids going up to him, and Luke's message. Cam, how do you feel about this 3-level plan of Luke Skywalker and company? You first infiltrate with Lando. We see Lando's there. Then give them the droids to put R2 in place, and then send Leia in to bring Chewbacca into the whole fucking thing. Like, do you have an issue story-wise with this plan?
I think it doesn't you have to really think about it hard to realise that Luke's actually kind of set this up, that he's anticipated what was going to happen. It seems a bit like just completely coincidental at first, and then you think about it, you think, okay, that's actually, there's a plan there. It might not be the best plan, but there is a plan there. I think a little bit of dialogue from Luke here and there to one of the other ones, you know, would have maybe sold that a little bit more. Do you feel what I'm saying with that? I think it's not obvious that this is a plan, but I suppose it works, doesn't it?
I guess so. Brian?
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. I think when I was a kid, I never really worked all that out until I got older and realized, this was all definitely. Really, you know, this was all orchestrated and planned, and this was a secret mission. And never, you know, it wasn't until I was older that I really thought about it.
It makes sense that they need to hand out the carbonite first, doesn't it, when you think about it now? But yeah, I'm with you. As a kid, you were like that. It just happened, you know.
And having his lightsaber in R2 and, you know, just having everything.
Yeah.
I do, you know, once I love 3PO's reaction. He must be playing the wrong message. Come on now. He's not giving us away. That's fucking crazy talk.
And I'm sorry, and I love that they didn't let 3PO in on the plan.
Yes, because he would have fucking not done it, or he would have ruined it.
Yeah.
There's something unique about Star Wars droids. Well, not necessarily completely unique in all of science fiction, because even Star Trek, like Data, has had emotions and things like that. But they really humanize the droids in Star Wars, even the ones that don't talk, like R2-D2. He's got snark,
yes.
You know, he's very sassy, and you can understand his points even without actual language. But one of the best examples of humanizing these droids is when they go to their slaver, I guess, the droid that's going to put 3PO and R2 to work.
Am I right in saying it's EV-99?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And we get droids being tortured and branded, and there's these droids are actually screaming and saying no and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
I found that really, really cool to do. Not that torture is cool, but I found that very cool to put this in the movie to really humanize not just 3PO and R2, but droids in general. Like, they're an integral part of this galaxy.
However,
any feelings on that?
Well, the special effects leave a little bit to be desired in that scene.
Yeah.
For a start, EV-99 looks just as if he's getting rocked back and forth on some sort of string. He just moves back and forth. Even when they cut to 3PO and R2, you just see his body. It's actually like he's doing some sort of sexual thrusting movement, constantly, like you know, like that or something. I don't know. And then when the thing comes down to torture the droids, you can clearly see it doesn't touch.
It doesn't touch all this.
And then the little jets that are so obvious that you can see exactly where these jets shoot out of. You can see every hole. I mean, that could have been designed a little bit better, couldn't it? That's one of the things, actually. I think all the original trilogy, some of the special effects in Jedi hold up the least, but then I suppose they were being more ambitious with that movie as well.
I can see that.
But in that scene, there's I don't have a problem with the scene in general, but I just think some of the special effects were a bit ropey in that scene.
Yeah, Brian, you down with droid torture?
Yeah, it almost feels like a Disney ride. Like, it looks like you're walking onto a animatronic set, you know? But yeah, I think I'm assuming the point of it was, like you said, sort of humanize the droids, and maybe even that's a setup for later with the Ewoks, as far as we want you to care about all these things, as, you know, these are living things, these are, you know, these are sentient beings to some, you know, we want you to care about the little cuddly and metal things.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the musical numbers. There's two versions of the musical number. There's the original theatrical version, which is a lot more low key. There is a band playing and somebody kind of singing, and you still have the green Twi'lek slave dance before she goes down the Rancor pit. But we don't know it's a Rancor pit yet. And then there's the special edition musical number. Did they update any more of the musical number for the Blu-ray release, or is it just like the 97 version?
No, it's just the same as the 97 version, yeah.
Do either of you have a preference of musical versions? Because I hate the 97.
I'll let Brian go first, because it's complicated.
I'm not a fan. It pulls me out of the film a little bit. It's too upbeat. I don't know, because it doesn't sound like anything else in Star Wars at all. And I think that was a mistake, but yeah.
Now, a word from our sponsors.
Grow Generation, where the pros go to grow. From propagation to harvest, they have everything you need for your special garden. Grow Generation serves customers across the nation and carries a wide inventory of renowned cultivation brands. Go to www.growgeneration.com, where the pros go to grow.
I completely agree. I remember seeing it in theaters at Fort Benning. My dad was on drill sergeant duty, and I was stationed at Fort Benning in Georgia, and saw it at the Windsong Theater, which I think is a Carmike company there on base, and it was a shock because I wasn't expecting that. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? I was used to the regular Return of the Jedi. This was completely shocking. I was not a fan of it. Cam, tell us how much you loved the what is that guy's name? They gave him a name and everything.
What one? What guy are you talking about?
The singer for the musical.
Oh,
number.
I don't know his name, to be honest. Because I remember the rest of the name, because they were obviously in the EU books, because you had the Tales of Jabba's Palace, which it was all about Max Rebo's band, and everything like that. But I don't know. Maybe they made him Max Rebo.
Cy Snoodles is the female,
that's the singer. Yeah. That's definitely the singer, Cy Snoodles. Yeah, but I don't know who the new male guy is. No. Yeah. Bareface. Oh, fuck, I don't know. But yeah,
who was the dancer? Sorry. Yeah, it's terrible. It's horrible though.
I'm in a different place for you guys, because I think I can look past nostalgia and see that original number was really quite shocking. I mean, I'll just hum the beats just now. That's what it went like, and that to me that's not music. So at first I didn't like it, but after seeing like the prequels and the Star Wars kind of galaxy expanding a little bit, you kind of think to yourself, they would actually have music. Jabba's this successful gangster. He would get somebody that can sing. He wouldn't get these fucking weird aliens that just go ba 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 da 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 da. I mean, he just wouldn't do that. So I like the musical scene. I think the special effects are a little bit ropey when you look at it now, because it was early CGI. But what I hate about the special edition is Ula, the extended part where Ula goes into the Rancor pit, because to me that's you don't do that in a movie. That's like I don't know, it's like showing the shark before you need to show the shark. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's more of a shock in the film if the first time you even think about this thing is, because it kind of happens off screen, doesn't it? It just kind of happens off screen and that's it. You don't see the door opening up or anything like that. And I think that helps when Luke's in that situation and you see the door opening up.
It's a better reveal.
Yeah, it's a better reveal. So I really don't mind the musical switch, but I really hate that they extended the bit with Ula.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. That outfit is nothing but mesh, and there's like mesh and body paint. I wonder if that would have gotten like a PG-13 today.
Well, I think it's okay as long as you've got the body paint on, isn't it? Because you can have body paint images, full nude body paint images on the internet that aren't like NSFW, because it's done in a way where it just looks as if the person's... It's the same as wearing a skin-tight outfit, isn't it? So I don't think they would have, but...
I remember hearing
here's the thing, sorry, to bump in, but
go ahead.
Why does Jabba, who's a slug beast, so if he was ever going to procreate, he would have to procreate with another Hutt, right? Why does he like these skinny ass?
Well, I mean, after seeing something that's attractive, would you ever want to be around something that's unattractive again?
Well, I mean, that's like, if I don't know. You know,
maybe it's like a status symbol. You know, like having the more humanoid slaves is like a higher status symbol than having a Hutt slave or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, in the EU, Twi'leks are part of the slave trade and multiple, including sex slave and work, you know, like labor slavery. So it's I don't know what it's like for the new canon with Twi'leks, but we've seen them in the prequel trilogy. I don't know, have we? They're in the prequel trilogy. I don't know about the sequel trilogy. I know that the trailer for The Mandalorian shows a pale-skinned, like Bib Fortuna colored white pale-skinned Twi'lek. She kind of looks back over her shoulder or something like that in the Mandalorian trailer. So I like the fact that this is one of those species that has shown up.
Clone Wars cartoon.
Yep. And a Jedi one, the bluish green skin one gets slaughtered during Order 66 and stuff.
Ayla Secura, is that her name? Maybe.
So I do like that Twi'leks are one of that's been one of my biggest complaints about the sequel trilogy, and I know it's a lot about merchandising, but a lack of aliens that existed from other films. Like we should have seen more Mon Cal, Quarren, Twi'leks, freaking Rodians, however you want to pronounce Greedo's species, and I don't know. I just kind of wish we had seen some more of that in the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's saying don't create new aliens. Yeah, it's supposed to be an expansive galaxy. But what we're saying is every single one doesn't need to be brand new. You know, you can also throw in some of the old guys as well.
And you're not even reusing species that you created in 7. It's like all new for 7. All new for 8, and probably all new for 9. They're not even reusing aliens from the sequel trilogy itself. Yeah. But let's go ahead and get Leia in here. Leia comes in. She's in disguise, the Bowish bounty hunter disguise. We get a cool show-off between her and Jabba. She threatens everybody with the thermal detonator. Solo, A Star Wars Story, borrows that horribly in their movie. Yeah, I hated that scene. As soon as it happened, I was like, oh god, this is fucking garbage. Leia's outfit's cool. I had a Baelish Leia toy. Brian, did you have a Baelish Leia toy?
Yes.
Yeah. Cam, I know you had older toys than we did. Did you have a Baelish Leia toy, or did your kids later on in life?
But me and my sister used to buy them together. So she got that. I remember one day when we got a figure each. She got the bounty hunter Leia. And I got, I don't know, I can't remember. I think I know what I got. I got a Gamorrean Guard. I got one of them, and we got them at the same time. But we used to play with them together, and she was older than me, so I was still playing with toys when she had kind of went off all that. So yeah, absolutely, I had that toy. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get to any. Well, no, actually, who thinks? I wrote this down. Who thinks Boba Fett's the one that tipped Jabba off that Leia was not really a bounty hunter? Yeah. Who thinks that it was Boba that kind of, because they have a moment, Boba looks at her and he kind of like nods, and we're all thinking he's like, good job at capturing Chewbacca. I think Jabba tipped him off. What do you guys think? Brian?
Was it? It was never explored in the
not that I know
legends,
of.
No,
not that I know of.
Maybe.
Yeah. Cam, is that in your head canon?
There was. I think Jabba's smarter than you give him credit for. I mean, I think Jabba is a very switched on, intelligent, and devious person. I think he knows something's up right away. The message comes for Luke, and then immediately after Chewbacca arrives, I think Jabba's already putting two and two together on that, and I would give Jabba more intelligence than I would Boba Fett in general. So that's probably my headcanon of it. There was one EU book where it was the guy with the elephant kind of trunk face, and they described that him and Jabba were actually pals. He was one of the few people that could call himself a friend of Jabba. And he's warning Jabba about everything that's going on, but I do not recall whether that part came up in it. I'm afraid. I only remember the second half of it where it all goes tits up,
Yeah. Well, Chewbacca's taken back, and we skip to the revels continue on, and we get to the Bawish bounty hunter running around, helps get Han off the wall, makes a big loud noise. You expect people to pop out, guards to pop out, time now, but they don't. She wakes Han up, speaks to him in the helmet, and then takes it off with the big famous, who are you? Someone that loves you. I don't know why, because the scene is very in character for both of them, but it bugs me a little bit. Does it bug you, Cam? Does it bug you at all, this scene, the reunion?
Yeah. I don't
what
think
is it
it's
that bugs
written
you?
that well. I don't know. I really don't know. I just don't think the whole setup of it works that well. And Han coming out the carbonite the way he is just, it's all a little bit weird. But I don't know. I cannot.
Nothing specific, just kind of Same here. Brian, do you have a similar feeling, or do you like it?
I like it. Well, okay. And it may be because I have one issue with it, but the thing I like the timing of the music when she pulls the helmet off and the music kicks in, and it's a sweet moment. The thing that bothers me is, why would Han be confused about what happens after you've been in carbonite? Because everybody else seems to be well aware that it blinds you temporarily, and he has no clue. And as somebody who's worked in smuggling and done all that, been in crime, why would he not know what would happen to somebody after they've been in carbonite?
Let's look at this. In Empire Strikes Back, they don't know for certain that you will survive being put in carbonite.
True.
So maybe they did some research of what they could expect. When they're planning the mission, okay, when we get him out, does anybody know what will happen to him? Or maybe they just assume that it's like other hibernation, other cryostasis illnesses.
I'll raise two other points as well. First of all, when they go in and Han's like, "What's going on, buddy? You're being put into carbon freeze." It doesn't really sound like Han understands what's going on there. And then the second point is, he's never supposed to be in that for so long. He's been in there for, I think originally it was a couple of years. I know the Shadows of the Empire is no longer canon, but that whole story happens in between. So there's supposed to be a bit of a distance of time. And Jabba, obviously, instead of defrosting him, just decides to keep him up there on his wall. So possibly that affects things a little bit different. And Leia and Luke have done a bit of research into that Han wouldn't be aware of,
I think you're both correct, but I think they're about to retcon this a little, because in the Mandalorian trailer we see that apparently bounty hunters, that's how they operate.
Maybe it could have spread, like
that's
we said.
Set post Jedi.
That is true.
It's set
that is
post Jedi, and Boba Fett could have been like, "Hey guys, this carbon freeze thing worked out fucking perfectly," because we do have a couple years before he dies, so.
But it was like in Clone Wars, it was as if, this might not work either. Remember in Clone Wars, the all Anakin and all that, it was the episode with Tarkin in it. I don't know if it was Tarkin's idea or something like that, and they all, to get by something that would detect life signs, they all got frozen in carbonite to get into some prison or something. I don't know. I watched it with my kid. I didn't really watch Clone Wars, but he would watch it sometimes and I'd be watching along. So they did use it in that, but even then they kind of played it like, we don't know if this will work, and it was supposed to be that kind of thing. Or maybe that's where Anakin get the idea from, because he had actually done it before, and that's why he was so confident. This facility should be adequate, kind of thing.
That makes
whereas
sense.
They'd probably done it in an industrial place, like with the full power of the Republic behind them at the time, I think. So
very cool. Well, of course, Jabba surprises Leia, says, "Hey, I knew this was happening all along, basically." He's going to teach her to show some respect by putting her in a bikini. And they throw Han into the same cell with Chewbacca, which I'm not necessarily going to put my two people that are pretty sly and good at working together, I'm not going to put them in the same cell. But that's what Jabba does.
Jabba's overconfident, though.
He's overconfident.
He is, so... He's never really had a defeat or much of a defeat, and he's in his own palace. He doesn't think there's anything to worry about.
Yeah, I guess so. But let's get to Luke Skywalker's entrance. First off, he comes in, there's big bright light, so he looks like a shadow. He looks like the shadow of Darth Vader. This whole entrance is foreshadowing to Luke. To me, it's foreshadowing Luke's potential for the dark side, what he's about to go through towards the end of the movie when he gets to the Death Star. His silhouette looks very Vader-ish. He's on Tatooine again. He force chokes.
Even his costume's black.
His costume is black, and he starts force choking motherfuckers. I'm sorry, I've been saying the force choking motherfucker thing, so I wanted to keep it going. But that's all darkness, like all right off the bat. The only person we've seen, Obi-Wan didn't force choke anybody. He uses the Jedi mind trick, which Luke uses on Bib Fortuna. But Brian, what was this like? Or what goes on in your mind even today, maybe back when you were a kid, seeing Luke all dark like this?
Well, yeah, my immediate thought this is his beginnings of that crossroads, where you go, dark or light. But also from this scene all the way through the end of the film, if you go back and watch A New Hope, Mark Hamill plays Luke completely different. With a few exceptions, with a few scenes, but pretty much different than he does by the time you get to Jedi. He is someone who has grown, who, as a character, who has matured and is more confident in, his abilities. And it shows in that scene, the way he walks in calmly. Old Luke is all spazzing
even between
out.
the Empire and Jedi, you see that this is a different guy than we left when we walked out the last movie, don't you? You think, looks different, right away.
For a moment, yes, and I'll get to, hopefully my brain works and reminds me to mention this point when we get a little bit further in. But so we all kind of agree there's some foreshadowing here. As well as like some connective tissue to his legacy and as Vader's son and stuff like that. It's a very cool entrance, though. I mean, it's badass, right? It's almost cooler than if he had just come in swinging a lightsaber, in my mind.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a powerful wizard entering a domain that he's not afraid of.
Yeah, completely unafraid.
He's kind of doing it the Jedi way. He is genuinely hoping to negotiate instead. You know, if Jabba was willing to negotiate, you kind of feel Luke would have went down that route. But he's given him every possibility, and and if it doesn't work out, here's the plan I've got in the background. Whereas a Sith like Vader just marches in there, slaughters everyone, and orders Jabba to give up his prize, because that's what Vader would do, but it's not a Jedi thing to do.
Yeah. So Luke goes in, like you say, uses mind control, basically, or the power of influence on Bib Fortuna. Bib takes him to Jabba. Luke tries it on Jabba, and Jabba's like, bitch, that shit don't work on me. And 3PO tries to warn Luke. Like I said, Luke legitimately tries to bargain, he really does. And then he gets dropped into the Rancor pit. And this is where all of that calm, cool, collective, I'm a Jedi master type stuff that Luke has in his mind goes out the fucking window. And we're back to like a New Hope spastic Luke Skywalker. Do you guys agree?
Yes,
okay, go ahead, Brian.
Because if you go back to like A New Hope, Luke had a lot to say in that early film. As far as like when he panicked, he acted like a child. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this he did panic, but if you notice, then he focused, and then he figured out what it was he was going to do. And then when they capture him, he let them. Mm-hmm. He didn't have to let those guards grab him. So to me, there is a moment where he does freak out, but no, I think he calms himself, as he does, like I said, throughout pretty much the whole film.
Mm-hmm. Cam?
Do we think that Luke knows about the Rancor and intends to go into the Rancor pit? I kind of felt like, well, if he doesn't know that, was he just trying to get captured? Was that the idea? That's what I thought. So when he goes into the Rancor pit, he thinks, what the fuck? And he's maybe never seen a Rancor before. Now, if that gate opens to you, and you're a military man, Mr. Malone, and excuse me, sorry. But if that door opens and that fucking thing walks out in front of you, sorry, but you're going to shit yourself a little bit. I was thinking, oh no, my lightsaber's in fucking R2. What the shit am I getting out of this one?
And to me, it just kind of...
He works out a way to beat it.
Yeah, he does.
You know?
And to me, in my head canon, what's going through Luke's mind is the initial panic, of course, but it shows a little bit of his overconfidence that he actually gets dropped into the Rancor pit, and I think it shows character flaw in Luke and goes back to some of the stuff that Yoda was telling him about, both in Empire and Yoda tells him in this movie.
Because why didn't he listen? 3PO was trying to warn him.
Yeah.
And he was sort of ignoring him a little bit. And it was a real quick scene, but 3PO was trying to warn him, and he just sort of blew it off.
Mm-hmm.
I have
also
one
want to
small make
Go
it
ahead.
better on this scene, and it's when he actually, after he goes through and he sees the kind of doorway and the Rancors coming towards him, I think he should at that point just kind of straightened up and seen instead of throwing the rock, he should have just whoosh, with a force straight off the button like that. I think that would have been a far cooler thing. Because, it's like, easy.
Why did it?
Because at that point he understands he's already won.
Yes. Why does he throw the rock? Why doesn't he force float the rock or just use the force to hit the switch? Like, I don't know if that was just bad writing or he's part of his panic.
I think it's just writing.
Yeah.
They just thought it looked cool.
Yeah. I just don't think they thought of that. Yeah, so he throws the rock and, that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's all that...
He could just click the switch with the force.
Yes.
And,
he doesn't
wouldn't
even need the rock.
Yeah.
Cam, why didn't Luke just lift up a metric ton of rocks and crush the Rancor with it?
Because at that point, that's still perceived to be a very, very difficult thing to do. Now, if Rey had been in that situation,
she would have pulled rocks off the wall and crushed it.
Picked up the Rancor with the Force, threw it off the wall a few times, and then gracefully leapt out of the Rancor chamber. Possibly. But
I literally wrote that question down just to get Cam started.
But I know. I keep going on about this sort of stuff, but I hope Rey turns out to be some sort of. There's a reason for it to be a complete badass in Episode 9. One thing about this scene, just quickly before we move on, the Rancor doesn't hold up, does it?
The graphics, no.
Yeah.
No, but I do absolutely love the moment we get with the Rancor's handler and him crying. I absolutely love that.
Yes.
So Jabba's decided he's got all of these heroes. It's time to go kill them, so he's gonna send them to the Sarlacc pit. Han meets up with Luke. I love the line, "How are we doing, kid?" Same as always. That bad, huh? Or that good, huh? I can't remember, but it's a funny little line.
Right.
Yeah,
that
bad, huh? And it's just great. I love the banter between Luke and his friend Han. The Sarlacc pit. Let's discuss the Sarlacc in general. First off, which version of the Sarlacc do you like best, Brian? OT or Special Edition, or did they even update it more for the Blu-rays?
They might have. I think it. To be honest, I wouldn't mind if they went back and gave it another facelift, because
just to clean up the graphics,
just to clean it up a little bit. Because I don't mind the.
I didn't mind the beak either.
No,
I actually think it makes it. I think the Sarlacc, while it was a cool idea when I was a kid, as an adult, it's just a fucking hole in the ground, isn't it?
The tentacles and the beak add to it.
It doesn't feel threatening, particularly. And you didn't see much tentacles until like the Lando leg thing. Really, there wasn't. There was one before that, but you didn't really see much tentacles. So the beak thing, like it's a living monster that hides there, actually works. But I agree with Brian that they could actually do with touching that up again. Actually, the whole trilogy could do. We see the things they did add, just like modernising them a little bit. To be honest, just because the special effects now. Compared to 97, it's a different world. It's a last 20 odd years ago,
when Luke's plan finally goes off and he, offers Jabba the one more chance to bargain, and we get our springboard action. The music kicks off here. I know, Cam, for you, Empire is like the end all be all of music, but I think this whole scene has some really great music when they're blending in the different.
Oh yeah, I mean, see when they're like the drum beat down, down. Down, I mean, like that, as it, and then that works brilliant. And I remember one of the trailers for, was it Revenge of the Sith, used that music for the trailer for Revenge of the Sith, I think, and it worked really well on that as well. So yeah, that's one of the. There's two pieces of music in this film that were introduced just for Jedi by Williams' score. And I think that's one of them, and I think the obvious other one is the Emperor. And I actually do really like them. But in terms of an original score, most of it is still what was there in Empire, though. So I think in that respect, which it absolutely
the
should
arrangement
be,
is what I really
it doesn't
liked.
mean that it's a bad score. It's just that Empire did it first, if that makes sense. There was more original stuff in Empire than there was between that and Star Wars than there was between Empire and Jedi.
Definitely. Brian, any words on music?
Oh, yeah, it's such a great tension builder, that particular scene you were discussing. The way the music builds up, and as an audience, you know something's coming, but you're not completely sure what. And then, bam, he gets his lightsaber. Not only is it a lightsaber, it's green now. And it's like, ooh. Yeah, that I could see, especially the first time seeing that, just that the music really building up that anticipation. And then going back to the Leia scene earlier, like I said, when she takes the helmet off, the way the music kicks in, and the music there's a lot of great spots, and then there's a few good scenes where the music sort of fades out and at really strong moments towards the end. But yeah, I like the soundtrack. I agree. I think Empire might be the soundtrack.
It is.
But Jedi,
I did
Jedi
make
is
one
solid.
mistake, because the Endor stuff's new from Williams as well, so that was a bit silly, mate, to say it was only those two pieces of music,
the Ewok stuff. That's what I thought you were going to say as the second one, and I completely forgot about the Emperor's.
But that's not. It's not exactly the most impressive of Star Wars pieces of music, so that's probably where it went in my head.
We can all take a moment to shit on Boba Fett and talk about what a waste of fucking time he was for the entire trilogy.
Worst scene in the film is Han doing that to Boba Fett.
Boba Fett?
Boba Fett, where? And then and then the Sarlacc burps as well. See, when in my mind, this is just in my mind, Boba Fett flies in and fires at Luke the whole way in, and Luke deflects every bolt, and one of them hits his jetpack, and then he cuts his gun in half. The big explosion happens, Luke gets distracted, Boba Fett winds Luke up, Luke cuts it, pushes Boba Fett away with the Force, then jumps away, and then Boba Fett goes to use his jetpack, and it's broke because of the blaster bolt would have worked better. I mean, it showed that Boba Fett was a bit of a badass as well. It wasn't easy for Luke, but still a Jedi.
Nice.
Anything else? No, that's just my head. That's what I want to see. If I was ever remaking the film for some reason,
I can see that.
I would shoot it.
I could see that. Brian, Boba Fett comment.
The only thing I don't like about it is his yell. He's like, I don't like that.
Mandalorians don't scream.
Well, yes,
I know.
Exactly. It sort of makes him look weak, but if he had just hit it and then fell, it'd be like, okay, but the fact that he actually yells, I don't like that. But everything else is great, and Harrison Ford's comedic timing in this film is great. The way, I do like that. Boba Fett, I don't know.
I think his timing is good, but I do have some issues with Ford. He's so done in this movie. I think he's almost as done as Alec Guinness was.
Alec Guinness was completely done.
I said almost as bad, almost as done as Alec Guinness was.
I agree, but I think to me, I like it because Harrison is just playing. He's more comical in this film. I mean, he's always been comical, but in this one, he's just chilling. And I don't know, it works.
I just don't think they give him enough to do. They just don't write him as well as they do in Empire for me. And his performance isn't as sparky as a result, but I'm sure he's probably doing the best with the material he's got.
And we'll get into that later with him and Leia. I have issues with what they gave them to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, our heroes succeed. It's a really exciting scene. You know, this is about 30 minutes into the movie and about an hour into our podcast. It's a very exciting scene. It's a lot of fun. The music's great. There's some things that are kiddish, childish, and I don't mean that as in just for kids, but like they're immaturely written, like a burping Sarlacc or how Boba Fett goes into the pit to begin with. But the next big thing is our introduction, our first real introduction to the to Papa Palpatine. And for those of you that don't know why I say Papa Palpatine, watch the Star Wars Robot Chicken specials, because those are great, and that's where I got that from. The Emperor, his introduction. Brian, go ahead, man. Just
perfect as Vader's introduction in A New Hope. You know, as far as one of the iconic introductions of a villain, just beautifully done. It's big. It's bombastic. It's all the gathering of all the troops, the music. And then it gets quiet, and he comes off, and he's this little old dude, and yet you still feel that presence.
Yeah,
and you still see the respect, that even Vader's giving him, even though he's this little dude. You really barely see him. He's got a cane, or does he have a cane? I don't know.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he's got a cane. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the dialogue. Now, I think the dialogue is funny in that they're just openly talking about the dark side of the Force and stuff, and they don't care who hears it.
It's some exposition in an area where it really shouldn't have happened, I guess.
Yeah, it's a weird...
I think by this point, the Emperor's out that way. He doesn't give a shit about that. He's on the Death Star amongst his own troops. No one's going to go, hey, that guy, he's the Sith Lord. Let's get him. That ain't happening. So
just that, not necessarily. Not that he's like trying to hide. Not that he should still be trying to hide it. Just not necessarily the best place to talk about it. Just in general, not because of hiding anything. It just doesn't make sense to be like, yes, let's. They're kind of slobbering all over the dark side in this scene, and I don't know. It's weird to me.
Because the Emperor's just saying what he needs to say to Vader at that point, and he doesn't give a shit who's there or listening. That shows you how much power this guy has,
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
And by this point, we've not had the prequels, so we just don't, we don't understand at that point. Maybe, as far as we know, everybody knows about him being able to use the Force. Maybe they think he's the only one that can, or something like that. Because we had no concept at that point of where the prequels were. So, you just made up your own mind about, what happened before. So...
I guess so. Cam, you had, or Brian, something else to say?
No. Cam makes a great point there. Back when that film came out, at least I was under the impression that the Empire was well aware of what Vader and the Emperor were.
Yeah, me too.
Where now it seems like maybe not, based on the expansion of the, the films and the lore, but no, back then, no, absolutely.
Cam, what is your take on the Emperor's big reveal, his big entrance?
I mean, I can't add anything that Brian did. It's the amount of troops that are there, the Red Guards as well. And what I love about it is the amount of ships. Like, see when Vader comes in, there's a few ships flying past. When the Emperor flies in, there's patrols of ships and Star Destroyers doing flybys, It's locked down like fuck, it's like when the president turns up, or the whatever the top guy is in your country. It's that kind of deal. I really love it, and as Brian said as well, it's the way the music, everything just calms down, and the tsh as the Emperor comes in, it just works so well, and he's just so good, isn't he, McDermott? This is his best ever Emperor. So, you know, he was at his best in this film. It's just pure scenery chewing evilness.
And I can't wait to get to the throne room stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely great. I think it's a great scene, and I love the music as well. So, yeah, Emperor's big scene, good stuff. Let's get away from the Emperor and Vader for a little bit. Any last words on that, guys?
No.
Okay.
No.
Let's get to Yoda. Let's get back to Dagobah. You know, our heroes have separated. You know, not sure if you know where everybody's going, but Luke goes to Dagobah by himself. Well, with R2-D2, of course. And we get Yoda again. Jammer had a lot of good stuff to say about Yoda from Empire Strikes Back and how his kind of goofy character fits, even though he's this very wise, very powerful Jedi. And that stuff continues on here in Return of the Jedi. Everything I love about Yoda from Empire is still here in Jedi. And some of the best writing of the entire trilogy is in this scene. Do either of you guys disagree with me on that?
No, and Hamill's acting is on point with everything.
Yes.
He always was, even with Empire, because Hamill's acting with a droid and a puppet, you know, and he's pulling all that off. He's the only live guy on screen, and that carries on in Jedi, I think, definitely. It's
great. Brian, do you have any issues with the writing in the scene?
No.
Dialogue or anything? No.
One line.
What's that?
Yoda saying Skywalker.
Oh.
It's hard to understand.
What? Sky.
Yeah, and I could imagine being in the theater
the way,
when that dropped.
It's the last breath that he takes, and it's like, it's almost, he can't get it in. It's like the last release of air at his lungs.
Yeah.
Walker.
But I was always thinking, if I had seen that in theaters and you sort of missed it and you were like, what did he say? Like, I could see everyone in the theater like, what did he say?
It was the first movie I ever saw at the cinema when I was about, 4.5, something like that. But I can't remember if I recognise it.
It's a great scene. Yoda's, he's showing his age. The time training Luke, I always had in my mind, kind of wore him out. Like, if Luke hadn't shown up to be trained, like, maybe Yoda would have lasted a few more years. But I think training Luke kind of drained him. Do you guys think the same?
Yeah,
Is that in your head canon?
It's also that kind of will of the Force. The Force was keeping him alive for his purpose, and his purpose was spent. He was now more useful by being part of the Force now.
I could see that.
That was his time, and Yoda understands that as well. That he's just hiding out in Dagobah. He's got no more part to play. He's taught Luke everything he can, and it's up to him now.
Yeah, definitely. Brian, words on this scene at all?
Just a great scene, and I love the way Luke helps him put the blanket on.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's just really well done.
When it comes to the actual things that are said, when Luke asks him, is Vader my father? Bravo to Frank Oz, both as the voice and as the puppet, and the way they were able to convey almost like a fuck he knows type look on Yoda and reaction. To Luke asking about Vader being his father. And I love Yoda's response. He told you, did he? He's like, yeah. Well, he's like, that's a shame. And Luke gets all kind of pissed. He's like, well, why is it a shame? Shame that I know who my father is?
Unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunate. He's
like,
like,
unfortunate this is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because you weren't fucking ready for that burden. And I like the word choice.
Not ready for the burden, were you?
Yes.
Incomplete was your training. Yes. Yeah, it works.
I think that word burden kind of ties a whole lot of things together. Like I said, Luke going back to Jabba's palace, thinking he was more hot shit than he really was, and he kind of got his, smacked in the dirt when he falls into the Rancor pit. And here's Yoda reminding him, you're not the end all be all yet, Brian, take on that?
And he warns him to beware of the Emperor. You know, he says, beware of the Emperor, or suffer your father's fate you will.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and that's, again, it's building up to this, this guy's even tougher than Vader, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great scene because Yoda is trying to explain to Luke, yes, you're powerful, you got these powers, you're tied into all this major stuff, but you still don't know everything. You know what I mean? You're still not completely an understanding of how the Force works, what it is, what's going on, the danger you're in. And it's played very well.
Yeah, it's great. Yoda warns of Palpatine and the seduction, like Cam said. What's that? Somebody coming in? No? Okay, anyways. When Yoda dies, he does, warn, or not warn, but tell Luke of a sister, your sister Skywalker. And
well, he just says there's another Skywalker.
Another, yeah. One thing I question here is when Yoda fades away into the Force, he takes all of his clothing with him, leaves behind just the blanket. However, when Alec Guinness was killed, he left behind his clothes, but he's wearing his clothes as a Force ghost in the next scene. Continuity issues?
Well, I always just figured that, Obi-Wan was just a naturist. You don't see it because, it's when he's got to do shit, he understands it's not PC, he's got to wear clothes. But what you really didn't see in the PT was when he got his break, Obi-Wan was just, as nature made him, when he would go to a little spa resort somewhere and just let it all hang out, and he would turn around and say to people, hello there.
Yeah.
So
this
that's the way he chose to go out, man.
At this point of the clothing, I never thought of it until viewing Return of the Jedi this time. I went, wait a second, Yoda takes all of his clothes with him. Obi-Wan did it, but they are both fully clothed in ghost form. It was just kind of a funny little thing. But let's talk Alec Guinness.
Would have been cool as if Yoda had come back naked. That's it. It makes sense. You either go with them or without them.
Oh man, speaking of Obi-Wan Kenobi, let's talk Alec Guinness not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
Alec Guinness comes in.
He pulls it off because he's so good, right?
I guess. I don't know, because it's not even, I tried to look at it as objectively as I could from, like, just his acting, like, without knowing that he didn't like Star Wars. Like, I tried to look at it, and I still don't think his performance is, I don't even think hamming it, or not phoning it in is the proper terms. I think he just showed up because he had some sort of weird sense of, like, responsibility. I don't know, but he's not trying. Cam, do you think he was trying some or something?
It's not bad enough. I don't think he is capable of performing badly enough to where you would notice it. I just think the guy's just too professional for that. It still doesn't feel off to me. Yes, it doesn't feel like it did in A New Hope, and you don't see him very much in Empire. It's just voice lines. But maybe that's the kind of thing, it would have been better just to have the voice. I don't know, because he seemed to put more into that. Maybe it was the whole, I've actually got to show up this time, put that fucking stupid costume on again, and sit here with this kid Hamill. I don't know, maybe that was part of it. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but it doesn't annoy me enough. Plus, I think the dialogue's fine. I like the dialogue, and he delivers it capably enough, and Hamill does a good enough job that it works for me.
Brian, your take on the scene?
Well, it's a bizarre scene in that it's a dump of information. It's like, oh yeah, Vader is your dad, and I sort of lied to you, and Leia's your sister. Think about it. Two of the biggest revelations in all of Star Wars occur and are laid out and explained in that one scene.
Because it's the time for Luke to know that this is the time. You know, he needs to have all the information available to him now, because they can't help him where he's going next. So it's time to just let it all out. That feels like the right thing to happen in the third act to the. If we're looking at a trilogy, if you compare the trilogy to like one film, and this is the third act, that's where that information would come out.
I think it moves a little too fast for me from his. When he lands on Dagobah, he doesn't know he has a sister. He knows he has a sibling when when Obi-Wan shows up to talk to him, and then he feels that it's Leia. I know they needed to get that information out there. I don't know. It seemed to have happened too quickly to me. But one thing I did want to bring back up is something that you pointed out from Empire Strikes Back, Cam, and that was your points. Your points that Lucas had always planned on Leia being
the sister.
The sister. Brian, since you weren't part of that conversation, did you believe growing up or watching these movies that Lucas had always planned Leia to be Luke's sister, or at least since Empire Strikes Back? Or do you believe that it was added during Return of the Jedi's writing?
I think there was definitely some, whether or not they were going to be siblings, I don't know, but definitely the fact that Luke reaches out to her at the end of Empire, I always thought that was interesting.
Yeah. That's one of Cam's 5 points.
The other point was the reason that I say that it was always supposed to be the sister is they used the Skywalker music there. They don't use any of the other Force themes that have been used in that movie. At that point, it's the Skywalker theme, and you've got this close up in Leia's eyes as the theme plays in. And to me, there's a couple other points I brought up to. I'll just briefly go over them.
Go ahead.
One. When Vader's in Echo Base and he comes to a sort of T-junction, he looks left, he looks right, he looks right again or something like that, and then he heads towards the Falcon. Luke isn't there, so who's he sensing? To me, he's sensing Leia. Then he then completely ignores Luke. He chases Leia for the full film, and to me that means that he's sensing something there as well. Oh, what was the other point I brought up? I fucking can't even remember now. You know, I had all my notes at the time, but I can't remember them all.
That's
but
all right.
Another
Everybody
few
can find it by listening to last month's episode of the Last Call podcast.
Jammer and Kyle didn't buy any of them until that last one that you've just mentioned. So
I said they were all valid. I said I still don't know, and that last one is a really good one. I have issues with the chasing of the Millennium Falcon, because then I think Vader would have been like, okay, Luke's not here, so what the fuck was I sensing on this ship? And I think he would have, made a deduction, but he would have figured something out about Leia sooner than he does in Return of the Jedi, because he did spend, if he was sensing Skywalker presence on the Millennium Falcon during Empire, that's the main reason why I don't know if that one fits, but they were all points that do lead to, you can make that conclusion. It's a good conclusion. I'm not saying you're wrong. But Brian, what do you think about those? Does those points kind of change your mind at all?
No, like I said, I agree. I think there was something there. Now, it's just, if you go back and watch the end of Empire, Luke reaches out and it's her, and the look on her face. And connecting back even to Jedi when she's like, I always knew. Yeah. It's a similar scene. It's that look of like, clearly they both felt it. They just didn't know how to put it into words or completely understand it.
It feels like that to me. And even at the end of Empire, you see the two of them standing in exactly the same type of outfits with his arm round her. And he's not got his arm round her in a kind of romantic way. It's in a friendship, kind of sibling type of way as they look out. And she's sad about Han, and he's comforting her while he's dealing with his own troubles. It just feels very brother-sisterly to me when you look at that back. So
it can, definitely. Well, Luke figures out Leia's his sister, finishes his conversation with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he goes back off to meet up with the rest of the rebellion, and they're planning this attack on the second Death Star. A lot of stuff happens here with the planning. We're introduced to some characters. Mon Mothma and Akbar get to talk, and we get Lando and Han together. The last time they saw each other, they weren't friends. Now we're seeing, a different side of their relationship. I really enjoy Billy D. Williams and Harrison Ford's banter and talking back and forth. Getting to see them as friends versus frenemies, kind of, in Empire Strikes Back. Brian, your take on their relationship in this movie?
Great. Like you said, they don't have a whole lot of time together, but it feels genuine.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like friends.
Yeah. Cam?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So once the planning is done and we learn many Bottons died to bring us this information about the second Death Star, there is something that makes a joke about the Bottons dying, and I can't remember if it was a Family Guy or Robot Chicken thing, but anyways.
It was what they said. There was a guy called Manny Bothans.
Oh.
And Manny Bothans died to bring us this information. That was what it was, rather than many Bothans.
There you go. So yeah, we're gonna do something a little different here now, because once this planning scene ends, we basically get three things going on at once. We have a ground battle.
I suppose you have the kind of...
Oh, yeah, we can talk about the infiltration. Want to do the infiltration before we break it down?
Bike. I mean, we can talk about it if you want. I don't really want to, because I think it's the weakest part of the film. This is the point that I get bored a little bit in Return of the Jedi when they go
the infiltration and the speeder bikes?
Yeah, the speeder bikes
let's just
hold up well.
Let's just touch it real quick. It is kind of important, I guess, Luke being on the shuttle that is infiltrating the indoor moon where the shield generator for the second Death Star is. Vader picks up on it almost immediately. He's like, hey, where's that shuttle going? And Luke knows that he's endangering the mission by being there. There's a line that the Emperor says later on. Vader goes to tell the Emperor, hey, my son's on that ship or on this planet. And the Emperor's like, yeah, I already fucking know this shit, dude. Why didn't the Emperor tell Vader? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of weird. The Emperor's holding things back.
There's one key point here. He knows about the rebels, but
not Luke.
He did not know about.
Oh, that's right. He doesn't. Vader he goes really. Vader felt it, and the Emperor's like,
it shows you.
Yeah, I remember now.
That's that connection's happening to me in the light side of the Force, not the dark side, and that's what Palpatine.
Because Palpatine asks him if his feelings are as clear as they should be. Yep. Never mind. So strike that point.
Blinded, so, yeah.
Strike that point. But I do think it's important to note that Vader does feel Luke during that infiltration.
And that is a great scene, because not only is there the whole Vader feels Luke, the Emperor can't. But the way the Emperor talks to Vader is sort of like secondary. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we've looked at Vader as this powerful guy, but even to the Emperor, Vader's beneath him.
I told you to remain on the command ship.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that is cool. Speeder bikes. I had a speeder bike toy. It was one of my favorite toys because when you pushed a button, it blew apart.
Yeah, it blew up. Yeah, I had that one.
I did like that.
I did too.
Let's just talk Ewoks just one quick moment, and then we'll get into the splitting this into the three different discussions. Yeah. Ewoks in general, 2 points that I wanted to make. First off, the Empire would have either enslaved them or wiped them out. They would have never left a primitive species around to muck with things or muck things up with a shield generator for such an important project. And number two, I know a lot of people complain about the Ewoks. I think if you had had a primitive species, Gamorreans, even something that wasn't so cute, I don't think people would have
with their original plan, which was Wookiee slaves.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting at. Like, even if you didn't go with the Wookiee slave, anything primitive that wasn't cute, I don't think people would have as much of an issue of the Empire ground forces being being brought down.
Yeah, you just can't buy the Ewoks doing this shit to stormtroopers when they, like, the way, you know, there's that thing where they, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, where they rope over and knock some stormtroopers down and they fall 2 feet in the ground. I've had worse falls than that on a fucking skateboard, man. and I'm talking about on concrete, never mind, you know, lying in grass. The troopers would have just get straight up and shot the faces off them. You know, whereas that was 3 Wookiees coming in and smashing them 3 feet away, then, you know, it works.
I guess so. Brian, any take on Ewoks in general?
I don't hate them. I know that is the one point that most people that have issues with the film, they do not like the Ewoks. They're not the greatest thing ever, and this may be a lot of nostalgia talking, which I'm sure it is. But yeah, I don't mind them. I think I like the comedy that comes off of them. I like showing the reach of the Empire, that even these little dudes are gonna have to deal with it. I don't, and also coming from that era of being a fan of like Jim Henson stuff. It you know what I mean? It has that quality. But yeah, I don't hate them.
Okay, well, we'll continue on with.
Hate them.
Which is weird because Cam was young enough to really like it. Like, you should have liked Ewoks.
I didn't hate them at the time.
Oh, okay. As
when
you
I
got
was
older.
that age, I thought that was okay. But as I got older, it became more and more and more of an issue and then you read up about what the original plans were, and you just realise that would have been so much cooler. It would have worked. That the Empire was using all these Wookiee slaves, because Wookiees can drive ATSTs, Wookiees can shoot blasters, Wookiees can rip stormtroopers apart, theoretically punch them into a tree and you actually feel like something's happened. I wouldn't even have minded if the Ewoks were there, right? Here's the thing. But as part of what they did, because they don't give Han and Leia enough to do in this movie. And if part of their plan had actually been that they free the Wookiee slaves, and then there is some Ewoks there, but there's all these Wookiees mixed in as well, and as the battle goes on, the Wookiees get more and more armed up as they steal the blasters, and the tide turns, that whole thing would have worked better for me. And the Ewoks can get involved as well. They could have still had their traps and stuff, but we wouldn't have had to see them shooting arrows that like just stick into the back of the fucking armour. I mean, these guys are wearing full plate armour. Arrows, unless shot by a Wookiee, that, where this thing's coming at you at fucking the speed of sound and piercing your armour, they ain't going to do shit it's just not going to happen. So
in order to get to the whole ground battle, the team gets captured by the Ewoks. After the speeder bike issues, the Ewoks believe 3PO to be a god. After 3PO tells, Luke uses the Force to get the Ewoks to release them, basically by floating 3PO. 3PO tells the Ewoks.
Real quick,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I do love the line of Han, of 3PO getting a little excited that they're going to cook Han in his honor.
Oh,
that line is just always, it cracks me up.
There is some fun stuff in all this, but it all ends with the heroes becoming part of the tribe after Leia's like, no, you can't cook my friends, and Luke does the Force thing. 3PO tells basically the Star Wars story of how all of our characters got there. The Ewoks, the Ewoks are like, you're now part of the tribe. Yay, celebration. Luke and Leia, and Leia being told that she is, or the realization that she is Luke's sister, which also means that Vader is her father. Cam, this scene takes on the writing and what happens. What do you got to say?
Yeah, I mean, I really like this scene. This is an important scene for me, and this is where I kind of feel that the sequel trilogy left late, and I know there's rumours that might be fixed a little bit in the next one, but I think they kind of did Leia wrong, because she really she's got the same power as Luke. She's Anakin's daughter as well, and I really love the way that kind of sets up that scene between them, and he explains why he needs to go, and why he needs to confront him, and that you're the last hope for the Alliance if It works so well for me. And then you kind of get Harrison Ford seems to not be phoning it in at that point when he comes out and says, could you tell? Look, is that who you could tell? It seems as if he's more in the moment at that point as well. So, I think it's one of the best scenes. Or, yeah, definitely a very good scene.
Very cool. Brian, your take on the scene?
You said it perfectly. There's literally nothing I could add. Great, and I also agree that if ever there was a moment where I'm like, this was the problem with Leia, it's that you didn't give her enough. You set her up. You set everything up beautifully, but then she just sort of hangs out with the Ewoks for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
and yet she's it's like everything's happening around her. Mm-hmm. And yet she's central to the story, but it's all happening around her, and she's not really. It
feels very old-fashioned.
Yes.
She's the girl, so she's got to be the sort of damsel in distress. The only thing she really gets to do is kind of shoot that one stormtrooper, really, when she's been injured.
Yeah.
And apart from that, as well, it's like, I got hurt. I actually want. You're absolutely right. Once that's been revealed to Leia, that should be like an awakening, like Rey had an awakening in the Force Awakens, and things start to seem different to her at that point. I think she should have been more an integral part to that final part.
I think it would be wrong not to mention how she remembers her mother, who died moments after. George Lucas and his goddamn writing.
Yeah, that's a prequel issue. That's not
exactly.
A Jedi
yes,
issue.
It is a prequel issue.
Actually, it's probably something when they thought about it though. How would you have done that so that you make it work? Because if Padme had been alive and it got out that she was with Bail Organa, then Vader is going to Alderaan to get her back. So.
You could have had her hiding.
The finality, what he would have been thinking: where's my wife and where's my kids? Palpatine just telling him, "Oh, your wife died," isn't really enough. But they have a funeral and all that because she genuinely is dead, so it seems more realistic. So I can kind of see why they did it like that. But
they could have had a funeral and then shown that she was hiding on Alderaan. And then we would have just been left with she died when Leia was young. That would have been fine for me. I think you could have still had a funeral on Naboo, closed casket, or it's a dummy, it's a droid, it's you don't even have to explain it. Just have a casket, just a closed casket.
Explain that though.
Yeah, and then in those last scenes, you show her coming like from the shadows. With Bail Organa holding Leia or something like that, and then.
But then, why does she die? And how do we know she dies if she doesn't die on screen?
We don't need to know that Leia explains that she died when I was young. She got sick. It doesn't matter. I don't think we really need that much of an explanation. But I think the way that they did
Vader
it
not
in the
sense that she's not dead.
Not necessarily. I mean, There's a lot of things that they don't explain. I just think that this was one of the worst things the prequel trilogy did. It's one of the biggest things that they ignore from the OT.
I totally agree.
I hate it.
I totally agree with you, but I'm not sure how you would have fixed it. That's all, and made
Brian,
it work. But
do you have a way to fix it?
No.
No.
I think we've had this conversation before. So
I think my way works because I'm the boss, and that's what I say. No, I'm joking.
I mean, actually, the best way to fix it is actually to retcon Jedi, which you can't do now. But that would have been the best way to fix it, I think. But hey ho.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the next big scene before I know I said we were going to break these three down, but I want to. No, you know what? Let's go ahead and just finish up talking about the ground battle, and then we're going to talk about the space battle, and then we'll get to the hallway scene with Luke and Vader, and we'll take that all the way through to the end of the film. So the ground battle, everybody knows what happens. It turns out it's a trap. The rebels go into the shield generator. They're going to blow it up. When reinforcements show up, they're captured. They're taken outside. Eventually, 3PO kind of distracts a group of them. a group of the Imperial soldiers, and that's when the Ewoks ambush them. Cam, you said it yourself. You just don't believe that these Ewoks could do damage to armored troopers. Like, it's one thing if it's a big species like Wookiees, but Ewoks, it doesn't work. But other than that, and the fact that Han and Leia have very little to do except for, fuck with a door for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What other
very well compared to the other parts. I know they had, it was a really, if you've got to remember back at the time, I mean, we see this kind of thing quite a lot in movies now, but that was pretty revolutionary. If you think about how much time the final act takes in this film, and it's all one big battle told from 3 points of view, it really was quite unique for the time, but they just didn't seem to quite have that part of it nailed down, and it's out of that final act. Every time they go back to the ground battle, you're like, just get me back to either the space bit or the Vader bit. That's all I want. I don't want it. It almost takes you at the film,
Yeah, I can see that. Brian, do you agree?
Yeah, it's the weak link of the final act.
Now, I know all of us absolutely despise the Phantom Menace, but do you guys think Lucas did a better job handling three fights for one battle in the Phantom Menace than he did in Jedi?
Because
I do not.
Because although the lightsaber fight's pretty cool, there's no emotion in that scene, and all the emotion you get in Jedi's finale is in the battle. It's not about how cool the fight is. It's not supposed to be. The cool part of that battle is the space fight in Jedi, but the space fighting is horrible in the Phantom Menace, and the Gungan stuff
and the dialogue
is even worse than the fucking Ewoks. Oh, Misa no having the bomba. Yeah, taking this
terrible.
It's awful.
Yeah, no one ever even talks about the Phantom Menace space battle because it's so bad. It's so horrible that no one even likes talking about it. No.
Lucas did not learn his lessons. The ground battle, eventually the Ewoks do overpower. They get a hold of, with Chewbacca, they get a hold of a walker. But when the ambush first happens, why weren't the walkers like the primary target, for the rebels? Like Leia, or I forget who shoots the walker pilot that's sticking outside of the top when the ambush initially... Yeah, when the ambush initially kicks off, like, there should have been people scurrying up the legs of that walker to take it.
That's my least favorite scene is Chewbacca's Tarzan swing.
Oh yeah, and the actual Tarzan scream.
I hate it. I do not like that. That bothers me every time I see it.
But taking the walkers would have been a very straightforward tactical advantage and thing to do. But the Ewoks and their traps overwhelm the Imperial troops, and the rebels do get to bring down the shields. While any last words to say on this? I mean, we already talked about how it's kind of like a waste for Han and Leia. You get the reverse "I love you, I know."
Which doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I don't think it works at all this time.
It's like that was really popular in the last film, so let's do it again. No, you don't do that.
So any last words, Brian, on the ground battle?
No.
Really, no. So while the ground forces are doing their thing, General Calrissian has led, along with Admiral Akbar, an attack force to go after the Death Star. They were hoping that the shields would be down when they arrived. Nien Nun, or Nien Noon, however people want to pronounce it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, to be honest.
The Celestian. The Celestian co-pilot with Lando Calrissian in the Millennium Falcon. Lando figures it out. He's like, well, we're being jammed. Why would they be jamming us if they don't know that we're coming? He's the one that calls off, hey, everybody pull up. The shields are still up. Wedge.
It's a trap!
Yeah, Wedge Antilles in his X-Wing, which they, red leader, gold leader, and green leader, but they don't say Rogue Squadron, which pisses me the fuck off. Anyways, and that we get a really cool space battle. This is like the best space battle, the famous "It's a Trap" line, which I don't know why that became such a it really wasn't corny to me. Cam, you saw it when you were younger. Was it corny to you?
It wasn't corny, but it doesn't need to be corny to be cool. Do you know what I mean? Although we have all these prequel memes, and some of them are because they're corny, but some of them are because they're actually pretty cool lines.
Yeah, but I mean, like, It's a Trap. Not just the memes, but I don't know. A lot of people use it as if it was a corny thing. I never thought it was corny. I'd be the same way. It's a trap.
It's got charm. It's just got charm about it. I love it. Absolutely love that line.
Brian, do you have anything against "It's a Trap"?
No, I love it. I mean, it. The comedy of it is this puppet fish head, in panic. It's he's like panicking. But no, it's
and he shakes when he talks. It's like he's doing a Nixon impression. It's a trap.
This is the definitive space battle. It's probably the definitive battle period. I like this battle better than Yavin. I like it better than Hoth. This is like my favorite vehicle on vehicle fight in all of the original trilogy. Where does this battle stand for you, Brian, compared to the other two big ones, Hoth and Yavin?
This is my favorite of all Star Wars.
Ooh, all Star Wars.
And I'm including Rogue One, which I love.
Nice.
No, it's the weight of it. Mm-hmm. This is it. The Emperor is on that station. I love the line where they're thinking of retreating, and
we'll never get another shot.
We will never get another. This is it. Do or die.
I don't have that shield down. We gotta give him more time.
So it's not only is it the battle, it's the emotional weight of it. I love all the different ships crashing into each other. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. I said I haven't watched Jedi in 3 or 4 or 5 years, but I have watched that battle since on YouTube. So,
Cam, where does this? So let me say, if I'm thinking, all of Star Wars, I don't know. I think the Rogue One battle.
It's great. I'm not
on and above just above Scarif. Yeah.
No. See, for me, it's good. It's the second best, but it's not, as Brian says, it doesn't have the weight of Jedi, because you don't then have the whole flying into the superstructure, which is fucking cool. Even the shot of how you follow the Falcon as it goes sideways, and then and the camera comes in after it, all shaky and everything like that. It's great.
Would Rogue One's Scarif battle hold more weight if we didn't already know that they do get the plans off planet? Because there is weight for it, but because we already know they get the plans, it takes it away.
It's just not as big a battle, There's more going on in the Jedi one, and it lasts longer. This is a smaller scale battle, and it's definitely really, really good. But it's a smaller scale battle than the one that's happening in Jedi, and it's that three-way stakes. Rogue's One, something can be good by what's next to it as well.
Yeah,
it's the points when we cut away to this battle and back to it that works so well. It's edited so well together. This, even though I don't like much of what goes on in the ground battle, the points where they cut between the three are so well done.
Yeah,
for me.
They are,
and that's far better than what.
Especially some of the stuff between the throne room and the fleet.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, seeing it out the window, when we're in the battle, it's loud and it's crazy, but then you see the little ships blowing up in the distance, and then on the ground side, like, if the longer it takes them to get that shield down, the more their people die.
Yeah,
the more consequences.
I could see that. So, Cam, for you, this is your all-time favorite battle as well.
Yeah.
This is now. Here's one more question about another battle, which I think me and Cam, of course, got to discuss this in depth. A battle that looks really cool, but as soon as people start talking, it sucks. The Battle of Coruscant. Where does that rank for you guys? From Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah.
Just the space battle. Like, where does that rank at for you?
It gets boring. When those little droid things get on the ships,
yeah,
I don't know. It's sort of, but it's not a bad battle at all.
It's not a bad battle. It doesn't anywhere near compared to the kind of pace, the kinetic sort of pressure that it feels in any of those other two battles. You feel like you're in a battle, and in that one, you still feel like it's a cartoon show you're watching, and nothing bad's going to happen.
And it actually gets more interesting when they get on the ship, in my opinion, in that particular.
The dialogue just really sucks.
Yeah, it's just awful.
Yeah, they're.
As far as cleaning up graphics, I'm watching the original theatrical versions of this movie. You can actually see the frames of the individual ships, how they're laid over the film. You can see black squares around the ships. I agree with Cam. They should really go in and clean that up. Is it as obvious in the Blu-ray?
No, that's what I'm saying. They cleaned that up. That was part of the special editions, I'm pretty sure. So that's definitely not.
I have not seen the original special edition since VHS days.
They definitely made that look a lot better.
Yeah, I had VHS once, and like I said, the only way I watched the despecialized earlier this year, but I can't really remember if those squares were there or not. You get introduction to the B-Wing, which is a great bombing craft until we see the garbage versions of the B-Wings in Episode 8. The Last Jedi. Love the A-Wings. The dog fighting between the fighters is great. I do think it's ridiculous that a crashed A-Wing takes down the executor or executor, however you want to pronounce it, the Super Star Destroyer. There's alternate auxiliary bridges on capital class ships. Even in the United States Navy, there's like remote bridges in case something happens to the main bridge. But overall, yeah, it's a great battle. The pace, the pacing for this battle is great. The cutaways to the other things going on, all massively important. And it does. It ends with that A-Wing crashing through the viewport in the bridge of the Super Star Destroyer, which then crashes into the Death Star. Wedge and Lando going into the Death Star to blow up the core. Very cool looking. Yeah. Did they ever release this movie in 3D? I don't think so. Because I wonder how that would have looked in 3D. Because it's almost like how some movies these days are made with at least one scene with 3D in mind. Like that scene with the fire coming out, especially at the end, the fire encroaching on the Falcon and stuff like that. I could see where that would potentially be a cool 3D scene. Any last words on the space battle, guys?
I suppose just I just love that whole bit when they're coming, they're going through the superstructure, they're coming out and the flames are behind them. I just, that I just remember how excited, that is one key thing I do remember from watching that in the cinema, how excited I was at that point,
Okay, interesting. Well, Brian, any last words from you?
No, just like I said, I love it, and I love that Wedge and Lando get the kill shots on the Death Star. Yeah.
It's a shame that Wedge hasn't been a part of the sequel trilogy. In my mind.
I am surprised by that. I really am.
Like they don't. I don't know. I still have hopes that we get a Disney Plus Rogue Squadron show. And they can recast Wedge. That's fine. You're not going to get the same guy to play him. But I really do wish we could get a Rogue Squadron show, because those were my favorite books from the EU. So yeah, let's. Are we ready to discuss Luke and Vader in the hallway and get to the Emperor's throne room, guys?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
This is one of the most talked about scenes between me and Brian. Almost every time we see something emotional about Star Wars, we always connect back to this hallway scene. Luke leaves Leia and the rebels and goes to turn himself in. And the dialogue here between Luke and Vader is just it's amazing. I love all of it. Luke telling his dad, or accepting Vader as his father, Vader acknowledges that, so you've accepted the truth. Luke saying, I know there's good in you, I can feel conflict, all that, all the way to like one of Vader's last lines, which is, "It's too late for me, son." Like, everything in this scene is just perfectly executed, and the music is great. Brian, since me and you talk about it so much, let's let the rest of the audience in on what me and you feel, your point of view on this scene.
When you say what is Star Wars, this scene, at the end of the day, this scene, the father, the son, the dark side, the light side, this scene is it. The hopelessness, even. It's all wrapped up in here. The line, "My father is truly dead." And my father is truly dead. That's it. That's Star Wars to me. I know a lot of people, especially lately, a lot of people are like, "Oh, we're tired of the Skywalkers. We're tired of the Jedi and the Sith." And look, I love all the other stuff as well. But to me, the weight of everything, it does revolve around the good versus evil. To me, to me, that's what I love about Star Wars. And this scene, it's very quiet, it's very simple, but it's acting. And when Luke leaves, when Luke is taken away, even though that helmet does not move in any way, shape, or form, the way that he moves his body and looks down, you can tell he's thinking about everything that was just said, and it hurts him. And you can tell.
Yes. Oh, great job for Prowse. And even James Earl Jones's voice inflections and some of the lines he has, especially "It is too late for me, son." It all combines together. I agree 100% with that body language from Prowse.
And one more, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And when he activates the lightsaber.
Yes, Luke actually has a moment of doubt about his whole plan.
There's a moment where you can see a little fear, and at first you're like, is this a threatening thing? And then you realize, no, it's more of a respect.
Yeah.
Vader's like, wow, look what you accomplished. Look where you're at.
Yep.
It's a great scene, and it's all done in like 10 seconds.
Yes, it's a very short scene. Yeah. Cam, your take on the hallway scene?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. It's absolute magic. It's just brilliant. It's one of the best, as Brian says, it's one of the best scenes in Star Wars. And to get that kind of performance out of one actor in a suit on set, and then another actor doing the voice in a studio later on, and Mark Hamill being there at the time, is just really quite remarkable that they got that, because there's just so much going on there. You just see that conflict. You see that Vader there is something in him, there is some human side to him that Luke's going to get it, and it makes you as an audience member wonder what you've been thinking throughout the rest of these three films,
Definitely. It is one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars. And I can't say enough how much I love. Brian brought it up before I got to. I love Vader leaning on that rail, and for a moment, all of the weight of everything, not just that hallway scene, everything going back to the shit we see in the prequel trilogy, the weight of everything hits Darth Vader. And I think for the first time since Mustafar, Anakin has a moment. What do you guys think? Cam?
Yeah, I mean, that is Anakin Skywalker. I think it's that he has genuine, compassionate feelings towards his son that he didn't think he would have, and it starts, with curiosity in Empire, but ends up with a weird kind of respect thing. And at this point now, he can't really deny it to himself anymore. This is a compassionate feeling he has towards his son, and that just doesn't work with the dark side. It's a conflict, and that's where the path to redemption really begins for Vader. You know, not begins, but you know, it's an important point in that path. Vader doesn't probably know how he's going to react himself when Luke turns up. If that, you know, do you know what I mean? And then it's just, that's what it is. It is what it is, and you know, they go on from there. And I think Vader's idea then becomes, I'm going to have to sacrifice myself. I think Vader knows the score, that he thinks to save Luke, he has to get Luke to go to the dark side because he'll stay alive, and get him to kill him, and that's the only way to keep Luke alive. That's what he thinks, and that's why what he's trying to do in the rest of the kind of throne room scenes and everything. Of course he's wrong and blah blah blah. You know, he works that out in the end, but you know, that's he's not doing that for himself. That's the key thing. He's doing it for Luke because he cares about Luke.
It is everything you guys have said. Brian, do you think this is the first time Anakin has peeked his head through?
No, I think that was the end of Empire. When he is talking to Luke and he gives the whole line, we'll overthrow the Emperor, rule the galaxy as father and son. That's the first moment that I think that little humanity left. Mm-hmm. You know, because he's now connecting with another person. And then the moment when he reaches out to him, when Luke just gets his robot hand or whatever. He hasn't got it yet. He's still hurt.
They're getting off of Bespin.
That's correct. Yeah. They're leaving, and then he senses him. Those moments, I think, are when they first, the beginnings of Anakin awakening, if you will. But this scene is the most important of that, because obviously this leads into he has to make a decision.
Interesting. Well, Brian, let's go ahead and continue on. Brian and Cam, sorry. Let's go ahead and continue on with the throne room. You know, Luke gets brought before the Emperor, and we get our first interactions with Luke and Luke knows this guy only from afar. He doesn't, he's never had any actual interactions with him. Luke's introduction to the Emperor. Brian, take us through your emotion, your take on this.
I love the banter, the trash talk between the Emperor and Luke. There's this animosity, this anger between both of them. Your overconfidence is your weakness. Your faith in your friends is yours.
Yes.
It's great. I also, the acting, all three. The performances in this scene is some of the best in Star Wars. Everybody brought their A game for that whole sequence. I love it. I also like the fact there's sort of a political thought here. You have this big battle happening on this planet, on this moon. You have the space battle. You have all this stuff going on in the galaxy. But at the end of the day, the future will be determined by these three guys in this room. You know what I mean? Like, in a lot of countries and stuff, no matter what's happening, usually it's just a handful of people to some degree calling the shots. I don't know. I felt that way. And that's sort of, I think, also the irritation some people have with Sith and Jedi, is that you have this whole massive galaxy, but at the end it always boils down to just, a handful of people that are sort of guiding the galaxy, what path it'll be on. But in reality, that's sort of how it is to some degree as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
Yeah, I actually completely agree. I love that, little thing that goes on between them. Your faith in your friends is yours. And what I love as well is the way Vader, when Luke kind of responds to the Emperor at first, Vader turns around and looks at him as if, I wasn't expecting that, and then the Emperor's straight back with something, and then it's almost like, shit, and that's when he turns around and says, it is useless to resist, my son. And then I loved everything the Emperor does in this speech afterwards, you know what I mean? Like, everything that has transpired has done so according to my design. Your friends out there on the Sanctuary Moon are walking into a trap, as is your rebel fleet. I love that. He's just, there's so many. I mean, I could literally tell you every part of that.
Yeah.
I could do every line that the Emperor says in this throne room, and probably Vader and Luke's responses as well, because it is fucking golden cinema.
Beautiful.
It's just, there's so much going on there. It's
I
just
love
great.
And I love Luke actually has fear. Like Hamill, I don't know if Hamill gets enough credit through the OT on how well of an actor he is with his body and facial acting, like his physical reactions. And he was able to, when he realizes the Emperor fucking planned all this, my friends are going into a trap. It is again a callback to Luke not being fully prepared for what he's taking on, which makes his success all that much more sweeter, I guess you could say. Yeah. I really do love how he was able to show legitimate, oh shit, the Emperor knows. One of my favorite lines in this whole initial thing is the Emperor's, oh no, my young Jedi, I'm afraid it is you that are mistaken about a great many things. Love that line.
The way he says it as well, a great many things.
Yes.
I love it.
I absolutely love it. Of course, during this time, the space and the ground battle are going on. The next big thing that happens here in the throne room, though, is you want this? And the Emperor slightly caresses Luke's lightsaber, and he starts goading him.
It's the way he says as well, I can feel your anger.
Yes.
And it's his facial expressions as well, like he's enjoying it.
Yes, I was going to say, McDermott does a great job acting facially through so much makeup, because so much has to come through the eyes because of the makeup.
You believe that he feels
yes
the hate in Luke.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's great. And then, of course, that one of those last lines before we get to the next part, you, like your father, are now mine. Though,
yes. There's
no way Lucas wrote any of the Emperor's lines. I'm sorry.
Well, it was probably... No, he probably didn't, to be fair. He's not credited for writing the screenplay. He'd come up with a story, but he
no, I think he is on screenplay for this one. Let me see.
Maybe, but I think he had some help.
Yeah, no, he did. He did.
Was Kasdan involved in this?
Yes,
one?
It was Kasdan and Lucas. That's what I'm saying. Like they both got the screenplay credit, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, screenplay by Kasdan and Lucas, story by Lucas. I'm telling you, all of these great Palpatine lines are all Kasdan.
Yes.
So I
don't know. You say that. But I think he'd have been saying, well, this is what needs to happen, he's got the guy that's got the idea of what's happening here in his head. So I think where you can imagine Kasdan going, well, what if he says this? What if he says that? Let's try this. But Lucas kind of going, no, that needs to happen, or he needs to show this. I'm imagining a more collaborative affair in this.
I don't know. The lines are just too good.
Because Lucas wrote, to go on the other side, Lucas, he solely wrote the prequels, or am I wrong? He did, okay.
He's credited for them.
Phantom Menace, yes, but the other two, he had help screenplay.
Okay.
Forget the guys' names for both, because I don't really know them from anything else, but yeah, he definitely did get help.
Jonathan Hales.
Oh, okay.
That's Attack of the Clones.
It was Attack of the Clones.
Because Revenge of the Sith, a lot of the dialogue, the tragedy of Darth Plagueis story, that's a really well done scene. Great, great dialogue.
Here's the thing: I think Lucas is good when it comes to the Force. I think that's where when he's explaining his myth, the way he thinks it works, he's actually good at that. What he's not good at is interactions between normal people. That's what Lucas does.
I think you're right.
Lucas is the sole writer for Revenge of the Sith.
Okay. So yeah, some of those scenes are real, and you're right. The scenes where it's just Anakin and Padme, being people, it doesn't work. But the scenes where it's the Sith, Jedi, that dialogue works. you know.
I saw a video not too long ago. Lucas, I don't remember what movie he was talking about, but he was just describing the Force. He was talking to a group of people that were working on some Star Wars project. I don't remember if this was a prequel or one of the shows or something, but the dude does. I shit on Lucas all the time, but my son's name is Lucas.
I know,
and that's for a reason. And it's this movie and everything around it. There's no doubt. Yes, I named my son after George Lucas, who I shit on all the time because of what he messed up with the prequel trilogy.
But it's also
and a
what
lot
he
of the
created.
changes.
He still created it. You know, we wouldn't be here talking about it with George
and he's got a
Lucas,
passion for it. He really, really does. Like in all of these, even Brian's most beloved episode 1 documentary, the passion Lucas has for his creation is unmatched. I don't even think Kevin Feige has the passion for the MCU that Lucas has for his creation. And
where Kevin Feige's better, though, is he understands what the fans want better than Lucas, and he's willing to listen to other people's ideas better than Lucas was as well. The prequels weren't enough of a collaboration. He needed somebody like Kasdan, and you cannot rule out Gary Kurtz as well from this, because him and Lucas fell out after Jedi, and he refused the chance to come back for the prequels, and I think Gary Kurtz was sadly missed from those prequels.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. We get the Luke looking at the Emperor, looking back out at the space battle, and then he goes back and he calls his lightsaber to them, and we're gonna start our duel. There's one funny thing I noticed when the two lightsaber blades cross in front of Palps. He looks cross-eyed. I'm not quite sure what he's looking at, but his laugh, I think, is ADR. I don't think that was an on-set recorded laugh. It looks very weird in that scene. Did you guys notice that?
Not really, no.
Go back and look. Go back and look just at that one particular part where the lightsabers cross. It looks like, I don't know what he's looking at, but it looks like maybe it wasn't meant to be that scene. There's maybe some editing tricks, and I don't know if the laugh, I think the laugh there is ADR. But the duel, this is a very, very emotional, very, very weighted duel. Cam, do you think this is more emotionally driven? Even before the sister remark, even before the Leia remark, do you think this is more emotionally driven than Empire?
Yeah, it's a different dynamic. In Empire, Vader doesn't know what he's going to expect. He's surprised when Luke gets out of the cabin fusion chamber, and then he's constantly testing him, pushing him a little bit to see what he can do. This is different. He's trying to goad Luke to kill him. I don't think this is Vader trying to win the fight at all. He's just putting up enough of a fight to try and get Luke to kill him because he thinks that's the only way that he can save him. I think that's his only purpose in this, and Luke keeps refusing to fight him, so he's trying to find ways to kind of bring him in. So I think the dynamic's completely different. But neither of these two fights in Empire or Jedi, and people can be, the prequel fights were better. Yeah, and the Darth Maul one, I get that, because Darth Maul's got no connection with Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon, so it's just a fight. But then you can't transpose that onto Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, which perhaps should have been almost as an emotional fight as Luke and Vader and Jedi. Again, a different dynamic there. You know, a reluctant Obi-Wan and a out of control Anakin. You know, but this it just works so much better for me. I'm more interested in the drama than I am the cool swish action scenes. Yeah. So I don't give a fuck if they do 7 twirls round behind their back. What I'm looking for is the drama that builds up and in the moment, and how you feel as an audience member during that. And you don't know which way this is going to go. You know, if you're watching this for the first time, you just don't know how this is going to resolve itself. You just don't get it, and they just tease it along until they get to. Sure, we'll get to that point, but at the moment, obviously, he fights, and then Luke just decides he's going to go and hide.
Yeah, Brian, this duel just generally, man, where's it at for you in all of Star Wars?
Excuse me.
Yet again, this might be my favorite because of the emotion. I like the pacing of it too.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, I do love that line where, Vader, you can't hide forever. What are you doing? Luke doesn't want to fight. Vader really doesn't want to fight. Nobody wants to fight, but they know that this has to happen. And I agree with Cam. I think Vader realizes, it's best if I lose this fight. And but then
because he knows the Emperor will kill Luke.
Yeah, exactly. And the performance, and I agree with you, Kyle. Earlier, you said that Mark Hamill does not get the respect for his performance in this film, and I don't think he does. I think it's one of the best performances in Star Wars. It's so good, in fact, that it carried the EU for the next several, couple decades. The Luke Skywalker we read about in the now Legends line is this Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
it's this guy, and so I absolutely love it. Are we talking about the climax yet?
Not yet.
Fight?
We're getting there. The music for it, guys, the music for this duel, I think is great. But of course, it really kicks off. The best part of the music is after, like you guys have been saying, Luke is reluctant to fight. I am a Jedi like my father before me, throwing his lightsaber away, going and hiding from Vader, doing all this stuff. Like Cam says, Vader's trying to give Luke a shot while Luke is trying to give Vader a chance, and it's very cool. But we get to this part where Luke is hiding, and Vader is goading him again, trying to get him out for reasons possibly like Cam and Brian have explained. And he reaches out. Luke is trying to push his feelings down, especially about his sister, but he accidentally lets, the cat out of the bag. And Vader's like, if you will not be turned, then perhaps she will.
Sister.
Yeah.
So you
Sister.
have a twin sister.
Yeah.
It's the way he says that line, so you have a twin sister. Yeah. Obi-Wan, what was it he says?
Was wise to hide her from me too, or something
now
like that.
His failure is complete.
Yeah.
And
if you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will.
And there's that music cue, and it's so bellowing, and it's so desperate, and it's
it's the Emperor's music, but it's different. It's a different beat to it than what we've had for the rest of it, which is quite somber, and it's just kicking in, and
the way it's so
dramatic.
Yeah, and as their lightsabers are clashing together, especially when Luke just starts hammering away, because the scene that shows you that Luke really does not want to kill his father is when he is hammering away at Vader's blade when he's got an open shot to kill him. And instead it's just all that anger, and it's like he's just beating a wall. He just keeps hammering away, and I don't even think he means to cut off Vader's hand. It's an accident. The blade slips and it slices off Vader's hand. I love the music there, the way the instruments are bouncing between the parts that they're playing. It's beautiful, and the shock on Mark Hamill's face is perfection in acting. Yes. The utter shock. He looks at the hand, realizes not only there's so much going on there. It's not just the realization that he let his anger get a hold of him, but it's the realization that he's hurt his father, could have potentially killed his dad, and also that, look, there's that robotic hand. I have a robotic hand. My father fell to anger. I'm falling to anger. There's so much going on there, Brian.
And connecting back even to what Yoda was saying in Empire, don't go, you're not ready. Mm-hmm. And by going, you've started down that path. Mm-hmm. And look, you have, like you said, you have a machine hand as your father does. Look, you are already down that path. Mm-hmm. Look where you are. Look what you've done. And you, like you say, you see all that in his expression, his great scene.
Yeah. Cam, go ahead.
I'm going for it. This is my favorite scene in all of Star Wars. You know, I can't help the hair stand up in the back of my neck whenever. It doesn't matter. I've maybe watched this film 400 times, conservatively, right? And this, it never fails to make me sit up and take notice. You know, I couldn't see if I was like, and it was a lazy Sunday afternoon. I've seen it a million times, and I didn't feel well, and I thought, I'll put Jedi on, and I'm half sleeping on the couch. At this bit, I don't care how fucking bad I'm feeling. I'm going to sit up and watch it.
Nice,
because it's that good. You know, it's just spectacular.
And
the shot and everything, the way Vader goes back and forth, and the camera follows them from that weird diagonal angle right over the pit. You know, it's just, honestly, it's amazing. So well put together. And
we have the last really good lines between the Emperor and Luke. You know, you're wrong, Your Highness. I will not be. I think I'm saying it right. I'll not be turned. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
I'll never turn to the dark side.
I'll never turn to the dark side. That's what it is. And Cam, go ahead. Can you give us your best Papa Palpatine response?
So be it, Jedi.
It's great. I love it. Because that's the Emperor admitting defeat. Do you guys disagree? That's him saying, "Okay, fine. I'm going to have to kill you."
Plan A has failed, and he's accepted that there is no turning this guy. So Plan B, kill him. You know, that's where he's going. He doesn't think he's lost in any
no. I just meant the defeat on turning Luke. That not defeat as in everything.
The door's closed, and he knows that.
Yeah. Yep. I love that realization. I think that's such a great and important way to have that line. Brian, any different take on that?
No. I agree. I love, and even his expression of how angry he is.
Yes.
At that realization, like, you know, because he fully, you know, wanted Luke as his new number one, if you will.
Vader
to make a Star Trek reference.
Yeah. Vader is used up. He's part machine. You know, Luke is younger. Luke, you know, there's a lot of reasons he could have really wanted Luke, including the power potential. Yeah. You know, like they mentioned in Empire, the Emperor has seen that you can destroy him. Love it. Absolutely love it. And then Luke gets electrocuted.
If you will not be turned, you will be destroyed, obviously. Yes. And then just and which we've never seen this before. Remember, when
brand
this
new
comes
force
up,
power.
This is brand new. And you know, and that's quite shocking, really. And, you know, because you think this guy doesn't even use a lightsaber, he doesn't fucking need one.
And goes beyond force choking motherfuckers too. He fucking shoots lightning at you. It's powerful, it's scary, and
he's so nonchalant how he does it. It doesn't look like it's taking any effort. It's just
none.
You know, and he's only teasing him with it to begin with as well, you know, because he's got some shit that he wants to say to him as well.
Yes.
It's that kind of thing.
Yes.
So good.
And I think it does go on for a couple of beats too long to drive up the anticipation of what is Vader going to do. I think there's probably a few seconds of this torture scene you could probably take out. But that's...
I like it. I think that helps build the tension because you just wonder. It just gives you... It's that. In fact, you know, I ultimately totally and utterly disagree with you on this because it's the extra second or two that sells this to me.
I guess I can see that. Brian, do you agree with Cam?
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything in this scene except for what they added.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
We need to talk about that. We have to talk about that.
Yeah. So, I think there's a second or two too long. My companions disagree with me, and that's fine. But it was all built to build the tension on what was Vader going to do, and you can see it. You can see it in his face, even though his face is just a plastic mask. And Vader picks up the Emperor, and another great music cue here. Like, the music is doing great. It's the Emperor's theme. It's dark. It's intense. And then when Vader picks him up, man, and tosses him over the edge in the original,
it's the Force theme in it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's great. He throws him over the edge, and there's this big explosion, and people, wonder, is that the dark side energy being released by the Emperor? Is that just the reaction inside that particular core? Yada, yada, yada. I like to think it's the
Or he keeps falling down forever and gets on the mobile phone letting Robot Chicken.
Yes, I love that scene. I love the Robot Chicken Star Wars specials are the best Star Wars parody out there. I can't stand the Family Guy stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. But did you hear when the new one, the Rise of Skywalker? That's it. When that came out first, and then they introduced the Emperor, was by all these memes kind of started and you saw the shot of the Death Star that they were getting in there, and he's still falling.
Yes,
he's still falling down the shaft.
But let's talk about in the OT or in the OG OT, Vader just throws him down there. There's nothing. He throws him down there. Luke, sees what happens, and after he recovers, rushes over to his side. But Cam, tell us what happened in 2011. What did they add in 2011?
Just before, so and this adds to what I was talking about how I love it in that 2 extra seconds. What Lucas has now done is added those 2 extra seconds in the little head shake from side to side with a no. Mm-hmm. No! And it is fucking awful. It is honestly the worst change to me. This is worse to me than Han not shooting Greedo first, and that was the top one for me until I saw this, and I thought, why would you fuck about with one of the most iconic moments in cinema history? You don't do that. That's like Coppola fucking about with the first scene in The Godfather. You just don't do that.
Definitely. Brian, you're a big fan of the no, I heard on the street.
Yeah,
is that true?
No.
It's a god awful change.
I hate it.
I
hate it so much.
It reminds me of the horrible no in Revenge of the Sith, which also made no fucking sense.
But at least it was originally like that. So it didn't matter so much to me. But when I got the Blu-rays at first and I watched that, I was honestly horrified. And every time I've seen it since, there's like a dagger that stabs into my heart, and I die a little bit more every time. I don't care. I'll start the campaign. Just fucking please, whenever you bring these out in the 4K edition,
take that out.
Please speak to Lucas. Say to him, this needs to come out, and just take that out. I don't even care if they fucking bring back Han or leave any of that shit. Please just take out the no, because it ruins the scene.
Yes, I agree 100%. Any last words on that before we talk about the mask coming off and the lines around there? No?
Nope.
Okay, so Luke is trying to help Vader get off the now exploding Death Star. By this time, the Executor has crashed into the Death Star, and it's blowing up from what Wedge and Lando have been doing out in outer space. And we get Vader, telling Luke, just leave me. I'm not going to make it. You're not going to make it. The whole point is you need to get off this ship. And we get the great scene, Luke, help me take this mask off. No, you'll die. It's too late for that now. I love that line. It's
nothing can stop that now.
Nothing can stop. It's
I want to see you with my
and
my
that
own
right
eyes.
there.
Yeah, just
that.
Yeah.
I want to look at you, look at you with my
just for
own
once,
eyes.
Is it just for once? Let me look on you with my own eyes.
There it is. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what. the gentleman, his name's escaping me, Cam, sorry. It's not Prowse.
Sebastian Shaw.
Sebastian Shaw. There you go. Sebastian Shaw, for what little screen time he gets, especially now since the fucking changes that they made to the very end of this movie, he shows so much emotion whilst covered in makeup and scars and his face still partially hidden by the bottom part of Vader's mask. Now go, my son, leave me. And when Luke's like, I've got to save you, he's
Although
like, you already have.
I'm not sure why he had a British accent, but really, again, that's a prequel issue. For me, Anakin should have been a British actor in the prequels. Honestly, the first thing that annoyed me with Jake Lloyd and The Phantom Menace, I thought to connect with Sebastian Shaw, it has to be a British actor.
I guess the idea is that British accent's more of a Coruscanti type thing, and Anakin was from Tatooine, but he should have picked it up. Yeah, I agree. But that final line, or one of those final lines of "You already have, Luke. You already have." That's the final redemption. That's Anakin Skywalker is now back 100%.
You were right.
Yes.
Tell your sister you were right.
I mean, I know we've got a sequel trilogy, but that's the whole point of this entire 6-part saga. That's Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. I know there was some in the Clone Wars where they kind of mentioned that it was Luke or something like that. I've never agreed with that. Luke is a catalyst. Luke is the catalyst that allows Anakin to fulfill the prophecy and bring balance to the Force. And that's the whole climax of this saga. The first trilogy is a tragedy, and the second trilogy is a redemption story. It's Vader's story from start to finish. Yeah.
I mean, originally, they kind of made it Luke and Vader's if you just look at the OT, but with what they did in the prequel trilogy and the prophecy and all that, it's always been about Vader. We'll see what they do with it. I mean, pretty much now, from the looks of Rise of Skywalker, it's the Emperor's saga. So
that's one of my issues now with this.
Yeah.
And it was right from the start. See, when they announced it in 2012, the one thing I said, I remember, at that time I wasn't writing for LRM, I was writing some shitty wee chat site and posting news on that. And I said right away in the day that story broke, I don't understand how they can do this. I'm all for making sequels, but to call it an episode as if it's episode 7, I don't get it, because the story's done at that point, And it's to bring the Emperor back, to me, just lessens what happens in that. Then when we're talking about how amazed we are by this scene and Vader's redemption, and all the sequel trilogy is doing to me is shitting on that now, going into episode 9, because the Emperor isn't dead after all, and nothing was actually resolved. So clearly Anakin isn't the fucking chosen one. Even is there a chosen one? Are they just going to ignore that? I don't know.
It is one of those annoying things, and that's coming from somebody that kind of likes episode 7 and in general, likes a lot of episode 8, but I'm scared shitless of episode 9. Brian, how do you feel about the sequel trilogy undoing this? Do you agree that it undoes this?
It very well might. Based on, the last trailer we saw, I'm not going to go into any leaks, but based on what supposedly is a leak, it completely undoes it.
I mean, I've read all the leaks at the moment, and I know Kyle doesn't want to know anything about them, so we're not going.
You guys can go to lrmonline.com and check out some of Cam's articles to find discussions and links to such leaks.
But what my point is, even just the fact of what we know from the trailers at the moment, without getting into the leaks, that it doesn't make sense to me. Just the Emperor being back doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, unless they're going to use like a Dark Empire storyline dealing with clones and stuff like that, because they did bring the Emperor back in
but I hated that in the EU as well, because for the exact same reason. It's not the Return of the Jedi isn't the climax if the Emperor isn't dead, because the Force isn't balanced and the Sith are still alive.
You got to remember, in the EU, it's more about Luke than it is Vader and Vader's redemption and stuff, because a lot of the stuff that was written for the EU was based off of prequel
I know, yeah,
things that had happened. So
yeah, but I totally get that. I do, and and that's not their fault because they were writing that before the prequels came out. I mean, most of those books we had read were before that point. But even then, it was the one thing about the prequels that I actually liked because it somehow connected with me. That all made sense. That to be this 6-part, because we always knew, even though we only had 4, 5, and 6, we knew there was a 1, 2, and 3, even if they only existed, if they even did exist in George Lucas's head, they existed in my head. And for me, you've got to think, well, that was all about the fall of Darth Vader. Then Luke wouldn't be in that, would he? Because he wasn't born. So to me, the story was always Vader's story anyway. So when the EU books went against that, that's when I fell out of love with the EU books, because I think to me it was always there just by the fact that they called it 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I could see that.
Also, Return of the Jedi, they keep saying Episode 9, this is the end of the Skywalker Saga.
Mm-hmm.
We just talked for 2.5 hours about what I think is the end of the Skywalker Saga. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be hard to accept unless they just pull it off. Maybe I could be wrong, but it's going to be hard to accept that they're going to have a better ending than what Jedi did.
Yeah,
I just think they should have started a new story and called it Episode 1. That's all they had to do, so that they didn't have to make it. That was the mistake they made in day 1, saying that they were going to do 7, 8, and 9. I just don't think it worked.
All good and valid points. There's one last music thing that I have in my notes, and that's as Vader dies, there's like a harpy piano playing of Imperial March very slowly. As Vader dies, I really think that's a beautiful touch to the music. I'm just going to add in a small criticism to John Williams here, which I apologise, Mr. Williams. I'm sure you listen to our podcast all the time. You are my hero in terms of scores. You're the best that there ever was. I have one small, humble point I would like to raise, that for me, that little piano, a softer version of the Imperial March, she should have found a way to make Anakin's theme and Phantom Menace and going on into the prequel trilogy. I thought that was a mistake. I could see that. Because that soft piano playing and dying is also significant of the end of Vader, the rise of Anakin coming, Anakin's redemption, and the end of the Empire, basically at this point, as far as we know, the audience. So I really love that. The movie's basically over now. We get some celebration stuff going on down on the planet. A funeral for Vader with the Force theme playing, which is great. It's in the EU. They tell us that Anakin was fully redeemed, and it's an empty suit that Luke is burning. I don't know what the new canon, if they've discussed that at all. The special edition celebration song I actually like better than the Yub Nub.
I do as well, but yet there is a nostalgic place in my heart for Nub Nub as well. So
okay, Brian, which musical ending do you like better? Just the music.
I've gone back and forth.
Okay.
So it's I'm fine with both.
Okay. I did like showing the other planets celebrating, though. Do you guys have any issues with that, Cam?
I don't have an issue with it, but I don't think it was necessary.
Okay, Brian?
It doesn't bother me, but it does stick out a little. It's when you watch 4, 5, and 6, because it's like, well, Coruscant, we've not been there.
Yeah.
But I obviously, yet again, this is the end of the Skywalker Saga 1 through 6.
Yep.
The entire galaxy cheers as the Emperor has been deposed. Sorry. This is what it's all been about. Freedom,
yes.
Justice prevails. And obviously there's going to be dark things rise again, but maybe it's never going to be as bad as what it was. That's a new story to me.
Yeah, and I take you guys' points that 7, 8, and potentially 9 kind of undoes a a lot of this. Jammer will never take that point. Jammer will talk about how great and how much 789 helps this.
Jammer, the first thing Jammer will say is, I don't really care about that as long as I'm getting good films. As long as he's being entertained, he won't care if they went 10 or ever, one movie at a time, he'll take it. One movie at a time. He doesn't look at it in the way we do as this.
Because Jammer's a terrible person.
You know, he loves Star Wars, but he's not a crazy Star Wars fan like we're crazy Star Wars fans. You know,
and he's our boss, so we'll say he's a good guy, but we know better. So the final change, and the one that upsets me more than for all of these, is having Hayden Christensen replace Sebastian Shaw in the final Force Ghost grouping that Luke sees. He sees Obi-Wan, he sees Yoda, and he sees his father. Because to me, the reason why this was the most disgusting change Lucas ever made is it says Anakin died on Mustafar and wasn't redeemed, because Sebastian Shaw showing up as a ghost was the evidence that Anakin came back, was fully back in charge, in control, in spirit, in body. Anakin died in that suit, not Darth Vader. Having Hayden Christensen be the Force Ghost is an affront. Unholy. I can't stand it. Brian, your take on that?
I don't like it. And if they were going to do it, they could have at least had Hayden Christensen do better, because you just look at, I don't know, it sticks out. Even his little performance there, I don't like. I don't like, and I'm not, I really don't. I don't know. Maybe if you were going to have him, maybe soften his look a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. He still looks like an asshole.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but no, I wouldn't. I personally would never have added him. But if I was going to add him, I'd have put a little more work into it.
What about you, Cam?
Yeah, it's the second worst change in this film for me, because as I said, to me, more important scene annoys me more, but it's just bad. It's just bad. I totally agree with everything you said, Kyle, in terms of why it's bad. They're just, and do you know what? That's a fucking actor that was in a role in a movie, and you cut out his money shot. To replace it with some young guy that wasn't even fucking born, probably, when he did it. I don't agree with it at all, and I don't get it. It plays weird as well. So, as you said, why is he young? That seems to signify that he died on Mustafar, as you said, and that the rest of it doesn't matter. It was so much better to be Sebastian Shaw. It didn't matter if Hayden Christensen played him in the originals. He's supposed to be older by then, but no, again, it's one of the things I absolutely would love to see able to be changed back to the old way.
Yeah, I agree. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Return of the Jedi. Great movie. Absolutely love it. My feelings after viewing it this time, basically the same as before. I love this film. I feel like it's one of the most underrated Star Wars movies, and it gets too much flack because of the Ewoks. Yeah, there's some pacing issues and some things that could have been done better, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But to me, it is easily better than everything from the prequel trilogy and sequel trilogy. Cam, your feelings after viewing it this time?
Honestly, exactly the same as what I said right at the start. It's my third favourite Star Wars movie. It has some of my absolute, as I've just now explained, it has my favourite scene in all of Star Wars. Some of the bits I'm so passionate about, but I think it has a weak second act completely. Real pacing issues in that second act as well. And 1/3 of the final battle just doesn't work for me, and it sidelines two of the most important characters in Han and Leia as well. So that's, and I know that's where we'll probably go next and talk about, but there's my feelings, and they haven't changed. It hasn't changed at all.
Yeah. Brian?
Not everything Cam said.
No. Nothing I said? Fine, same. Fuck you.
No, nothing.
I'm joking.
No, yeah,
it's
Nothing
good.
to add.
It's good. So let's go ahead and get to the last few questions that we talk about always on these podcasts. Brian, who do you feel was the strongest actor in this movie?
Mark Hamill.
Elaborate. I know you said some stuff earlier, but elaborate.
Yeah. A lot of people always said when they were defending Hayden Christensen, and I don't hate Hayden Christensen, but when people were defending him, they were saying, "Oh, he's whiny. Luke was whiny. Luke was whiny," and I always used to hear that and it used to make me mad because I was like, "Yeah, Luke was whiny in A New Hope,
Yeah.
and slightly in Empire, but then he changed,
Yeah.
and in this film." He takes the character in a completely different direction. The character actually grows over the course of the 3 films, and it shows. And so that's what always used to irritate me. It's like, no, if Hayden Christensen's character, if Anakin had grown as a character over 3 films, fine. But in my opinion, he didn't. But no, Luke Skywalker had some of the best. He had the best scenes in this film, in my opinion, and great performance.
Nice. Cam, yours strongest actor.
Okay, this is very difficult for me, so I'm going to mention 2 people, but ultimately I agree with Brian, right, that because he's carrying the whole film, Mark Hamill, I think if we look at A New Hope and Empire, everybody's favourite character was Han Solo, but a lot of people changed. Their favourite character became Luke after Return of the Jedi because the character just grows in such a great way, and Hamill grows with that, and he just sells so much with Yoda, with Vader, with all these people that with McDermott in a mask. He's getting nothing back from any of these other actors, in terms of facial expressions, and he's having to carry all of this weight on his shoulders. And I know Christensen did a little bit as well, and he failed at that. Hamill excelled at it. You put him under that pressure, and that's when he just comes out his shell. So it has to be Hamill, but at the same time, probably just single thing, the Emperor. Ian McDermott is I have to mention is absolutely spectacular in this, and I think he's amazing. But he doesn't have to carry the whole film on his shoulders, and that's why I have to give it to Hamill. But the lines that I love the most that are the Emperor's lines, if that makes sense.
I'm with you guys. It was pretty obvious by the way we're talking about all of the little nuances and things that Hamill's able to do when like he's the only living human being you can see on screen. It's great. It's awesome. So Cam, we'll start with you. Who was the weak link in this movie?
This is really, really difficult because I think in Empire and in A New Hope, I just said no one. There was no one that was really a weak link at all. But I'm actually going to say Harrison Ford on this one. If you had put a gun to my head, I think maybe it's the material. He just didn't have much to work with. They didn't write that many good lines for him. It just kind of feels like Ford's done at this point. This is when he's already done Indiana Jones. He's had all this kind of success, and I just feel like he was done with Star Wars. But then give him better material, give him something more to do, and maybe you would have sparked him into life. He's still not horrible in any way. It's not as if it's a bad performance, but it's not, for me, vintage Han Solo is the Empire Strikes Back version of Han Solo, not the Jedi one.
I agree. I think he was done, and he's the weakest link in this movie for me as well. Brian, what do you say?
I'm gonna cheat and say no one.
No, you can if you want.
I'm gonna. I do see what you're saying, but I still enjoy when he's on screen. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I do. So I don't.
It's still Ford, and he still has that presence. But it's not a magic. When you think back to Ford's great performances, you're never going to think of Jedi. You're going to think Raiders.
That's true.
You're going to think. I love him in Mosquito Coast. You're going to think Empire. These are the ones you're going to think of, not Jedi.
Yeah.
And I also agree. A lot of his performance came because of the script. As far as what he had to do. But yeah.
Brian, best scene in the movie.
Best scene is on Endor, Luke and Vader. That's my favorite scene.
Always scene, 100%.
Always scene. Yeah.
100% agree. Cam, for you?
Second favourite scene is the hallway scene, but my favourite is the everything from, when Luke's hiding your sister to up until they chop the hand off in the music and everything like that. That just to me, as I said, and I don't need to say any more than I did at the time. It still makes the hair stand up in the back of my neck every time I watch it.
Oh, from your highest high to your lowest low, what's your least favorite scene, Cam?
Me, well, I think I'm gonna have. I don't know. You kind of use where I think I know where you're going, and I can see that. But before we kind of we got onto that, I was going to pick Boba Fett. I think the whole Boba Fett coming in and just doing absolutely nothing and going out again was just such a wasted action opportunity for me for a character that they built up. Okay. But you may convince me otherwise. Is what I'm saying.
Brian.
I said it earlier. It is the Chewbacca Tarzan scene. Every time I see it, it takes me out, and I'm just like, why? I understand it was a nod. I get it, but a kid today isn't gonna get it. No. I don't know. It felt pointless.
I think it didn't bother me as much when I was younger because obviously I grew up when they were still playing black and white Tarzan on the TV every summer. And so, I absolutely knew that call. But, when you mentioned it, I thought, maybe that is worse than Boba Fett. So you may well have convinced me there, Brian.
I go back to that scene with Leia and Han towards the beginning. It feels so off. It's so weak. I'm not sure how to fix it. I really don't know. But I don't know. It doesn't feel right, and it feels like it should have been different to me. What did you think I was going to say, Cam?
That one. Yeah, I thought either that or the same one as Brian, the Chewie one. But that's the one I was thinking about when I said that, because when Brian mentioned it earlier on, I thought, it went in the back of my head, and I thought, now when I watch it back now, I don't like it there.
Change for the better. I'll go ahead and say the only thing I think would change this for the overall better is change the Ewoks. It could still be something primitive. It could be Wookiees. It just change the Ewoks to something else. It doesn't need to be a cute teddy bear. Brian, what would you change to make this movie better?
A better story for Leia. I think all the building blocks were there, but they didn't do anything with them.
Good choice.
I think she need something more for her.
Cam?
I'm a combination of you both. So for me, the entire second act in the Ewoks needs to be better. I think the idea of Wookiee slaves being there, giving Han and Leia something to do would have really worked. And I think also Leia needs to do more. Han could have some good lines, don't get me wrong, but it needed to be Leia stepping up to the plate for me. That realisation, and I would have liked to have seen her using the Force, to be perfectly honest. I always felt that.
Even something small.
Yeah, even something small, because it kind of signifies something. It's that belief, it's that thing like, that Yoda said to Luke, you need to believe these things, and she's seen what Luke can do, and she knows that Luke's telling the truth. She's always known.
Like her grabbing a blaster from a stormtrooper or something small could have been cool. Well, guys, we are done with the original trilogy now. Brian, thank you so much for helping us close out the OT. Man, Cam, it's episode 7 next, dude.
I know.
And after that,
things are going to get tense.
The big show, the big one everybody has been waiting for. Cam Clark, hater of episode 8 versus Joseph Jammer Medina, lover of episode 8, with poor me stuck in the middle trying to keep each other from killing.
I can't wait to hear that one.
Oh,
I can't wait.
That's going to be hitting in November, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, next up around the 24th of October, it should be me and Cam, as always, joined by LRM Online's very own Fox Troilo. And then in November, around the 21st, we'll be doing The Last Jedi with our editor-in-chief and Cam. Final words on the original trilogy, Cam.
Most important thing in my life. Until I had like kids get married and stuff like that. You know, anyway, that's what I mean. But what I mean is, you know, your life is already at a certain point by then, you know.
Yeah.
But the biggest influence on my life up to that point is that Star Wars trilogy. You know, it changed everything for me. It made me want to write. It made me fall in love with cinema. It made me fall in love with stories, with sci-fi. You know, it just kindled my imagination. Like it was my muse for everything in life.
It's pretty important. Brian, final words on the original trilogy.
The most important trilogy ever. There are others that I love, but you know, this is the reason I'm into science fiction, fantasy, into fandoms, period. This was the first one, you know. And yeah, very important.
This is how a lot of my friendships have come about.
Yeah.
Seeing somebody wearing a Star Wars shirt, having a Star Wars lunchbox, hearing somebody talk about Star Wars at the lunchroom, and it just perks up your ears, and you go over there, and before you know it, it's like me and Brian. You know, here we are nearly 20 years into our friendship, and it was fandom stuff that brought us together. You know, and Star Wars has an everlasting impact on my life besides the permanent tattoo, my son's name. I've got lifelong friendships because of Star Wars, and it was the original trilogy and the love of Han, Luke, Leia, Vader, the Emperor. It was all of that. I will forever be grateful to George Lucas for it, even if he shit all over it later on in his life.
Yeah, it's fair.
So, thank you once again, Brian, for being on the show, helping us do Return of the Jedi and close out the original trilogy. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You guys can go check out all of the past episodes wherever you get podcasts from. Google, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud. We're everywhere. LRM, Last Call. You'll find us. Next up, like I said, The Force Awakens around September 24th with Fox Troilo. Make sure you guys are checking out the website for that. Make sure you guys are going to the website every single day for all your entertainment news. LRMonline.com. We cover everything in geek and pop culture and entertainment. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Lots of great things up there right now. Lots of celebrity interviews, old episodes of LRM Ranks It, and there's new stuff coming. You can catch LRM Ranks It, new episodes in podcast form on the LRM Online Podcast Network, where you can also catch Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, on Mondays, LR Mornings every Monday through Friday, Last Call once a month, and of course Los Fanboys every Friday, and LRM Ranks It hits usually on Wednesdays. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Cam, where can people find you at online?
Yeah, at LRM_Cam on Twitter. Hit me up on there. You can find me writing stories on weekdays, and check us out in the comments section about the specific story. Always love to get into a good discussion and a good debate with fans, with readers, sorry, I should say. Fellow fans, I mean.
I would say people could find Brian, but he lives in a cave. Away from all electronics. He has to borrow stuff to do these podcasts. So you guys can try going hunting for his cave to track him down. But you guys can find me at that Kyle Malone on Twitter and hosting LR Mornings every Monday through Friday for LRMonline.com. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will talk to you next time. May the Force be with you.